Hello everyone, welcome live to 3Y TV, tonight's broadcast of the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series for Championship Night here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I am Peter Short. Alongside me is Drew Eisenman, and Drew, the entire season has come down to this very race tonight. 4 drivers vying for the title.
Yeah, and equal points for those 4 drivers. Matt Cherry, Drew Himmelman, Stan Hausman, and Chris Darling, all even on points coming into tonight. So basically, I mean, stage points and stuff aside, whoever finishes it the highest amongst those 4 drivers is very likely to be our champion at the end of this thing.
Yeah, so there's Stan Hausman in the number 39 machine. We got a quick look at Matt Cherry out there as well. Let's see if we can check in on some of the other drivers that are sitting currently on pit road, including Christopher Darling in the number 11 machine and Andrew Himmelman in the number 8. And of course, all eyes are on Andrew Himmelman, but not currently atop the leaderboard here in this practice session in the number 8 machine. He's been on a complete tear of this series, Drew, over the past couple of weeks, picking up poles, picking up wins. But here tonight, it's Matt Cherry fastest in practice.
Yeah, but I mean, Himmelman, and I mean, quite frankly, Hausman's up there in the top 5 as well. When I think of Himmelman, I think of a guy who has definitely shown one-lap speed, especially as of late. But I think consistency and managing his tires over the long run has been what's won him a ton of these races recently. And so I think that if that race this race tonight has some really long green runs, I think that's going to put the 8 in a really good position. But I think if there's, you know, a late race 5-lap restart run to the end, I think Matt Cherry's got that short run pace. But we've seen that 38 sometimes shoot himself in the foot when he does have the quickest truck out there. And Peter, he's got a decent sized gap between he and second place Doug Neal. That's about as big of a gap as we have, especially for our top 15 or so.
Yeah, absolutely. Just going to check on the levels just a little bit. Sorry about that, folks. Just turning down the trucks just a smidgen and making sure I'm well balanced against that. We apologize for that. But definitely going to be a very interesting night if we do get some late race cautions here. You know, at the point where drivers can make different strategy calls and of the likes. It is definitely going to be a lot of fun. Johnny Williams in the chat saying good luck to the top 4 and hello to the booth. How's it going, Johnny? Stephen Doziak saying evening all. Tana Himmelman saying, hey, it's Friday. Let's go, Andrew Himmelman. Of course, Tana very much rooting on the number 8 machine here tonight. We got a poll in the chat right now going on. Who do you think will win the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series title? And got Andrew Himmelman, Matt Cherry, Stan Hausman, and Chris Darling up there for you to vote for. Although the practice session, is coming to an end here, and it will be Matt Cherry, fastest of all here in this particular session. And now, Drew, we're going to get to see the final pole shootout this season, brought to you by our friends over at craigssetupshop.co.uk. If you haven't checked them out all season and you're an iRacer yourself, make sure you do here tonight. And it's going to be fun to see which one of these drivers will have an opportunity to go for the Buttkicker Challenge for the final time this year.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly expect that if it's one of those championship 4, I would be surprised if they are willing to put their championship hopes kind of in a precarious situation by taking that. But I think guys like JT Poole, right? Guys that are exceptionally fast in most places that we go, but aren't running for the championship here tonight. I think that basically everybody else doesn't have much to lose. If I were one of those guys outside of the top 4, I would probably go for it. If I was one of those top 4, I probably would not. But we'll see what this 26 can do. JT not having the best practice time down there around just outside the top 10 for that number 26 machine. But, you know, Peter, it's one of those deals where when you kind of get knocked out of the championship hunt like JT was last week, it's kind of understandable to kind of come into the next week not quite as motivated to perform. One guy that certainly will be with that number 38 machine that we just saw. But yeah, at 26, Peter, I think that's the most heartbreaking way I've seen a driver not only miss out on the not lose the race, but miss out on a chance to win a championship here at Las Vegas.
Yeah, if you were not here last week at Kansas Speedway, JT Poole absolutely dominated that race, but with about 7 laps to go, his computer turned off due to a Windows update, and he lost his opportunity to compete for the title here this week. He's going to jump up to top of the board in the number 26 machine. Got the Mardi Gras look on that number 26 machine. He spins it out in turn number 1 and 2, still holding the top spot. Christopher Darling in the number 11 has come around to put a lap time in. Just waiting to see Andrew Himmelman put in a lap time. Finally does. 9th position on the board for the number 8 machine. Chris Darling, one of our championship contenders. Where will he jump up to the board? Matt Cherry is sitting in 5th. Chris Darling on lap number 2. He will pick it up, but only moving up to the 7th position. Now we'll go over to Andrew Himmelman, who has been on a little bit of a tear recently here in the Craig Setup Shop pole shootouts. The number 8 going to come to the line, getting as much time as he can there, going below the apron. He will jump up to top of the board there, Drew, once again. Himmelman turning in a stellar lap time here in the Craig Setup Shop pole shootout.
Yeah, a really, really solid time for that number 8 machine. Kind of what he needs to do to set himself up well. Matt Cherry, a little underwhelming, down in 6th position. Right now, I don't just seeing if that 38 is still out there on track. He is not. So that 30.697 will be where that number 38 machine qualifies. But guys like Nick Kessler, another championship guy that we're looking at right now. Stan Houseman, still out on track. We will see what kind of lap this 39 together, a 30.774. That'll put him in 12th tentatively right now. So a decent effort by the number 39 machine, though as it stands right now, and I think as it's probably likely to stand, he will be the lowest qualifying of our championship 4.
So yeah, Stan Houseman will slot into the 11th position. Kyle Lewis is out there. We just saw Nick Kessler jump up to 3rd on the board in the number 4 machine. So he will bump down Matt Cherry, Chris Darling, and Stan Houseman back a spot. Here's Kyle Lewis on his 2nd lap time and his final timed lap. Where will he jump up to? 14th position right now for the number 18 machine. So he did pick it up a little bit on lap number 2, but did not pick up any more positions, and that looks like it. It looks like it's going to be a quiet racetrack. Just 1 minute left. So we will see Andrew Himmelman and the number 8 machine here, Drew, pick up another Craig Setup Shop Pole Award here in the series, and we'll get to ask him whether or not he is, of course, going to have an opportunity to go for the Buttkicker Challenge. I doubt he's going to go for it, but you never know. He might decide to, but there's a heck of a lot on the line for the driver of the number 8 machine here tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to hearing what that number 8 machine has to say. A really good qualifying lap by Drew Himmelman to solidify that pole here tonight.
Yeah, so just about 17 seconds left. These drivers, of course, will have a little bit of a warm-up session here in just a moment. We're going to see if we can catch a word, of course, with Andrew Himmelman. We'll see if we can bring that up here very, very quickly for all of you people back at home and figure out whether or not he is going to go for this, the last attempt at the Buttkicker Challenge. Now, let's see if we can bring him up here into the booth. And, well, looks like here, Drew, we're not going to have the opportunity, unfortunately, to ask him because it looks like we got trucks lining up out there on the racetrack. So, folks, we're just going to have to kind of jump into, let's see if we can bring him up here real fast because he's already down in the waiting room. Andrew Himmelman, Peter Short, 3 Wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Yep.
Well, really fast, the big question is going to be whether or not you're going to be able to go for that Buttkicker Challenge here tonight. And, of course, you are one of the Championship 4. Be kind of a surprise if you do take it. But, you know, got to give a shout-out to our series sponsors, Buttkicker and Craig Setup Shop. What do you think here tonight?
Nah, I'm not taking it tonight. Big goals on a championship, so that's the only thing on our mind. So we want that championship more than anything. So nah, we're not taking it tonight.
All right, well that's gonna do it with you here tonight, Andrew. Best of luck here as you can have a great shot at winning the championship tonight.
Yep, thanks, man.
All right, well we'll let Tim get back to his group there, Drew, but not doing the Buttkicker Challenge here tonight. I'm not surprised that that is the case for the driver of the number 8 machine, but, you know, might walk away with the series title, and I'm sure that's more important as we can quickly bring up tonight's starting lineup. How about let's hide all the other stuff in the background. There we go. Andrew Himmelman, Mitchell Adams, 1-2. Nick Kessler, JT Poole, row number 2. Ben Adams, Jason Crossius, row number 3. Matt Cherry, Ben Mashburn, row number 4. Chris Darling and Tristan Maher, rounding out your top 10 there, Drew.
Then Doug Neal and Stan Hausman will start 11th and 12th place, respectively. Starting in 13th is Doug Milliner, then Kyle Lewis. Adam Dama in that number 82 machine will be rolling off in 15th position, with Jeff Price starting to his outside. Nathan Maurer in that number 971 machine will be starting in 17th position. Travis White in that 23 and 18th. Vinny Valvano in that 00 and 19th. Then Justin White, Garrett Gleason, Jason Shue, and Steven Doziak Jr. rounding out our field.
All right, so these drivers here tonight, they have a bit of a long race in front of them here. It is definitely going to be one heck of an interesting night as they work their way towards turn number 3 and 4. This time, next time by, Drew, we're going to see them about 165 miles an hour around turn number 3 and 4 for pretty much the entirety of the race here tonight. Going to be one heck of a show here as they're waiting to see the green flag in the flagman's hand. About to get set to go. It'll be 140 laps here around this 1.5 mile racetrack. It's a 210 miles here for everyone in store. Andrew Himmelman gets us to the green flag. We're racing in championship night.
Yeah, and that number 8 machine starting to the inside of the number 49. It's kind of weird, Peter, that the number 49 of Mitchell Adams, for the first time in forever, is not competing for the championship. Of course, our previous won't be later tonight, but was last season's, in the seasons before, back-to-back champion. So kind of interesting that the 49 is not competing for the championship. The number 4 machine, Nick Kessler, is competing for the race win right now as he gets by Drew Himmelman on this opening lap, and that number 4 machine will lead this lap, but caution is out.
Yeah, we got a couple cars around in the back of the field. Kyle Lewis looks junked up. Garrett Gleason, Travis White. Let's see if we can see what happened here on the 3-wide TV replay. Here we go down the backstretch, keeping our eyes on the number 18 machine right here on the center of your screen. Does he get loose? He goes up to the top side. Yeah, just gets loose up there in the marbles there, Drew. Comes down, gets into Jeff Price, just kills the number 23, and then the number 2 nowhere to go. You see Garrett Gleason. I thought he was involved, but looks like Gleason able to check up in that one, but that is really unfortunate. A couple of these drivers involved very early on. Let's see if we can get another look here on board with driver of the number 18 machine. But Drew just getting a little bit too high up on the racetrack, and it really snapped on him.
Yeah, you see the truck over-rotate there. He tries to save it, and he actually gets into the 14 right there, and then that kind of launches him up the track into that number 23 machine, who clobbers that outside wall. He is probably glad that he is in a simulator in iRacing and not in that truck in real life, because that would have been a huge hit. Here we're riding on board with that number 23 machine, and you'll see that number 18 get loose right there. As you mentioned, just entered a little too high, clips that 14, shoots him back up the track, and boom, that's a massive, massive impact for the number 23. The 2 caught up, as well as was the number 3. And so, Peter, that's already on lap 1, 4 cars that are likely out of this race.
Yeah, here we go, on board with Justin White right here. There's the contact, and just nowhere for the number 2 to go. That is some pretty hefty contact. And then, ooh, someone got into him down there on the bottom side of the racetrack. That might have been Jason Shue. It was the number 3 of Jason Shue. So let's see if we can get a look there of what happened to the number 3 machine. There's the contact that has happening there. Shue goes down low right into the back of Justin White, who gets kind of a twofer. Now, the one driver who was able to squeak through this, Garrett, was driver of the number 7 machine here, Garrett Gleason. Let's see if we can see how Garrett was able to avoid this.
Yeah, I think that he just does the smartest thing you could do, and when you see smoke boom right there, just hit the brakes as hard as you can, right? Just get that thing slowed down as much as possible, and the 7 comes to a complete, well, almost a complete stop. He actually keeps that thing rolling a little bit and just does the smart thing. Sometimes you lose a couple places. That's fine. You still have a truck that works versus one that is going to be severely torn up potentially if you don't take that kind of a evasive maneuver. But Peter, one thing that can happen that the 7 kind of had the luxury of is when you have guys behind you and you do that, sometimes you can get run over. Luckily, well, probably maybe not luckily, but maybe strategic thinking-wise, the number 7 didn't have that problem, so really smart move.
Yeah, so unfortunately, 4 of the 22 starters here tonight already sitting on pit road. Each of those trucks very heavily damaged. Now, we did see Nick Kessler take the lead of the race here tonight, away from Andrew Himmelman right there on lap number 1. And the number 4 truck will be leading us back to green here shortly, as it looks like the pace car lights have turned off. So we will be going back green here on lap number 5 of the championship night here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. There's a link in the description to the podcast. There's a Podbean link down there. So if you have not checked out the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast so far this year, well, make sure you do so here tonight. There's no better night to do so than on championship night. Of course, they not only sponsor the series, but they sponsor championship night as well. So big shout out to them. And definitely going to be interesting to see how this all works out. Kyle Lewis says, sorry for those tuning in, just got too high up into the corner, got loose, and that is all she wrote for that number 18 machine. Pace car heads down pit road. We're about to get set to go back to green flag here, as Nick Kessler and the number 4 machine will lead us to the green flag to the inside of Andrew Himmelman. A little bit of a slow restart there for the most of the field, but looks like they're getting wound up here. And Drew, looks like the number 38 back there of Matt Cherry kind of got a slow restart. He's going to fall back behind Stan Hausman.
Yeah, and that number 8 machine potentially going to lose second here. As here comes JT Poole to his inside, as the 49 not quite able to clear him. So the number 8 will carry some good momentum down the backstretch into turn 3 as they run right now. If that 8 can just stay on the right rear of the 49, I don't think he's going to be able to. No, the 8 of Drew Himmelman, he's close. I mean, the 49 could take it if he wanted to, but I think he's trying to be a little nice there. There he goes. He clears himself off of the bumper of that number 8. But that's not great starts and restarts for that number 8 machine, but he doesn't need to win tonight, Peter. All he needs to do is finish with more stage points and then a higher running position than, or higher finishing position rather, than those guys that he's racing for the championship. So third would be just fine for him right now. But you always want to get up there and race for that win. It'll be interesting to see how this race develops. Is now the number 26, JT Poole, looking to woman's outside, actually, going into turn 1. Nothing there just as of yet, but that number 8 not having a ton of short run pace. I wonder if he's just kind of maybe under driving the car, trying to make sure he doesn't have an early race mistake.
You know, and if the race were to end right now, Drew, it would be job done anyway for Andrew Himmelman. He is the highest place of the playoff drivers. You will see the playoff drivers with the green banners here tonight and the green rear spoilers like Andrew Himmelman right there. You can also see the number 38 of Matt Cherry back there. They're hard to miss that really bright green on the trucks, and they really pop here under the lights at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. You see the number 11 of Chris Darling, and behind him the number 39 of Stan Hausman, as we see some side-by-side action here between Jason Gracias and the number 1 machine, who definitely has won a couple of races so far this year, Drew, in that Discount Tire Chevy Silverado. So he's one we're going to have to keep an eye on tonight, trying to play spoiler. 3 wins to his name so far this year in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. Of course, did not make the required number of starts to be able to make the playoffs. But that number 1 machine is very, very quick here, especially if we can get some long green flag racing, as we have seen over the last couple of weeks here in the series. We haven't seen many cautions, kind of an oddity to see one there on lap number 1. And of course, we do have the stage break here tonight coming out around lap number 50, if my memory serves me correct. So that will be something we will be keeping our eyes on as well as the night goes on. But pretty much single file right now here, Drew, except seems like maybe a little bit further back around Stan Hausman and Doug Milliner. They seem to sort things out. And then you have to go back to around Adam Dama, Jeff Price, and Doug Neal, who was one of those drivers eliminated last week at the Kansas Speedway from championship contention.
Yeah, and Doug, I think, had a really strong chase showing in the number 77 machine. I think that basically he had the best form that he had really had consistently all year in those playoffs. Just a little bit of misfortune kept him out of that thing. And I mean, he was right there, especially when JT had that unfortunate set of circumstances. That number 77, I think if he had a healthy truck, that he would have been right there with Stan Hausman trying to make the championship 4 here tonight. but a really good showing back up front. I've noticed the 4 machine previous didn't do it this lap, entered a little bit low going into turn 1 and got real tight up there, as now we're seeing the number 1 machine run that high lane. Interesting choice by Mr. Gracias there in that discount tire number 1 Chevy Silverado, but he seems to really be making it work at least through 1 and 2, as the 8 machine disappeared for a second on my screen, but came back and there's a huge wreck involving the number 5, and is the 38 going to be involved as well? He was sideways.
Yeah, Ben Adams' night appears to be done. Caution flag in the air for the second time, and Matt Cherry, I think he might have got a piece of this. Let's see what happened here, Drew. Coming out of turn number 4, Matt Cherry to the outside, Ben Adams to the inside. Cherry going down to that white line, just hooks the number 5 machine of Ben Adams, throws the 5 up into the wall, and Matt Cherry gets a lick of it there. Doesn't look like there's any damage just yet. Was he able to save it? No. Contact with Ben Mashburn, and Mashburn gonna get sent up into the wall. Here comes Doug Milliner into the side of the number 38 machine. The 24 of Mashburn and Milliner both go spinning. Milliner taking out the green cone while he's at it. He's going to grind to a halt, but perhaps more importantly here, the number 38 of Matt Cherry, pretty big damage here, Drew, and he's one of our championship 4.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much damage he's going to have, but any is worse than 0, especially when you're racing for a championship. And I think the 38 just misjudged it here. I think he thought he was still clear of the 5, and that he wasn't quite as close as he was. But, kind of his own doing right here. It's always unfortunate when guys get kind of caught up in something that they weren't involved in. The 38 certainly had, I think, the majority of the responsibility for that incident, and just kind of, I think, a misjudgment, but just maybe being a little more conservative right there. Man, he just hooks that 5. That's another big hit for Ben Mashburn right there on the front stretch. The second really big hit that we've seen here tonight. But, when you're racing for a championship, sometimes it's good to just let off and maybe lose that position for now, because this can be the result. And I really think that Matt Cherry is going to be facing an uphill battle for contending for this championship from here on out.
Here we go, on board with Doug Neal. Watch how close this one was, folks. The sim box number 77, they're spinning cars. He gets loose there through the travel, has to go down through the grass, and just barely squeaks on through those lower cars. Vincent Valvano had a pretty similar story as well. We'll see if we can get it on board with the number 55 machine of, not the number 55, the number 00 of Vincent Valvano. Here we go, on board with him. As there's the spinning cars. Look at 77 and Neil get loose, and Vincent slows it down, and good job there by Vincent Valvano. Some good heads-up driving to not lock up the tires there, Drew, because with the rate that the 38 was coming down, pretty easy to lock your rear tires, and that would be all that she wrote for him. Now, looks like Kyle Lewis has got the number 18 machine back out there on the racetrack, so we'll presumably be picking up the lucky dog here, brought to you by our friends over at Brookstone Animal Hospital. We'll see whether or not that does indeed happen. But unfortunately, Drew, we're hearing right now that Matt Cherry and the number 38 machine on pit road going 1 lap down. Ben Adams, number 5, is absolutely toast, and as is Ben Mashburn. So a couple of retirements, and of course with Matt Cherry, who looks like he's rolling back out into the racetrack. He's going to need one of those Brookstone Animal Hospital lucky dogs if he's going to have any shot here tonight to pick up the series championship.
Yeah, sorry about 7 over there, Peter, but based on the looks of that 38, I think that was required. I don't think he has that thing fully healed up. Ton of damage on both the right corners, or I guess the left front and the right rear corners of that number 38 machine. And kind of one less truck that you really have to be focusing on if you're that number 8 machine. I think the 38 was at least the most obvious threat championship-wise to Drew Himmelman, but another guy is right behind him that's competing for that championship. Drew Himmelman just 1 position ahead of Chris Darling right now. You see that number 8 followed by that black, white, and red number 11 machine. Those two are competing with Stan Hausman right behind those 2 as well. So all 3 healthy championship trucks right there, nose to tail.
Yeah, you absolutely love to see these three playoff drivers contending for the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series title here tonight, all running together in the 6th, 7th, and 8th positions. A little bit of a slide back for Andrew Himmelman. He had a very lengthy pit lane time relative to some of the other drivers around him. Not sure, Drew, if he might have missed his pit box or something like that. Maybe he didn't get in his pit box square, and iRacing gave him a long pit time. But about 2 seconds slower on the stop for the number 8 machine. So he has a little bit of work to do after losing some ground on some of these drivers up at the front. But that's just going to make things a little bit more exciting here when we go back green, because you can see the iRacing pace car lights have turned off, which means we will be going green flag in half a lap from now. As you can see, the field continuing to be whittled away little by little. We're down to now just 15 trucks on the lead lap, and Matt Cherry, Drew, in the number 38, still trying to come down pit road. There he is. In fact, I say he's trying to come down pit road. He is on pit road, not moving anywhere, trying to get as much damage repaired as possible. But unfortunately for him, it looks like his season might be coming to a very abrupt end here tonight in the championship round. So could it be just the championship 3 that we're left with? I don't know. We'll find out as the storylines go on tonight. But the pace car heads down pit road, and it is Nick Kessler and the reigning series champion, the number 49, and Mitchell Adams on the front row for this restart, Drew.
Yeah, and here goes that restart. Number 4, Nick Kessler, solid restart. The bottom lane, decent, but not super great from the second row on back as Kessler clears Mitchell Adams going into turn 1. The number 17 truck will clear third position as JT Poole continues to fall back a little bit, as I think Jason Grossi is going to get him right here. And here comes Drew Himmelman trying to reclaim a little bit of ground that he lost in that pit stop cycle there, Peter. He lost a couple positions and put himself in a little bit more of a higher pressure situation than I'm sure he would like, is now battling JT Poole as Adam Dama. That's an interesting pit road entry. I think he's going to be okay, and I think we are not going to see a yellow if that 82 can find first gear. There he goes. And there we go, stay green as JT Poole running an interesting super high lane, but carries a ton of speed off the corner and actually gets alongside Jason Gracias. And Peter, it's not something you typically see at Las Vegas, our guys rolling against the wall, but the 26 is making it work. Ooh, a little loose maybe there in 3 and 4.
Yeah, you could see him sawing on the wheel there, and that number 26 Utz machine just finding not a whole lot of grip in turn number 3 and 4. That's what we saw, of course, bringing out the first caution flag with the number 18 machine. He's still sawing on that wheel. Let's see if we can go on board with driver of the number 26 machine right here. See if he has a similar issue in turn number 3 and 4 right here. 180 plus miles an hour. Just looking to saw on that wheel just a little bit back and forth there. Ooh, man. It almost wanted to step out from him right there at the center of 3 and 4. But that's what these drivers are going to be fighting all night long. And we know JT, he is definitely racing with his head down here tonight after last week's very unfortunate result for him, where he ended up losing the race with 7 laps to go when his computer decided to do a Windows update. So JT Poole definitely trying to have a good night here tonight as he is trying to go around the number 1 of Jason Gracias now on the low side. Drew, maybe he's had enough of that high line. Maybe it's a little bit looser up there. We saw that catch out Kyle Lewis. But either way, JT Poole is trying to get his way to the front.
Yeah, and good position on Jason Gracias here with Mitchell Adams seemingly struggling all of a sudden in that number 49 machine, also on the high lane. So maybe 2 positions up for grab right here if that number 8 could not quite carry the speed that he wanted to, as the 49 now cuts back under JT Poole. Now JT Poole's going to be on the high lane, as is Nick Kessler, as Tristan Maher is now battling for that race lead, and I think he's definitely going to lead this lap. Will he clear the number 4? As if you can't quite clear him, Peter, that can be a real challenge going into the next corner if they're able to kind of get that side draft, get that speed going into the corner, and then typically roll that high lane just a little bit better. I think that's what the horse is going to be able to do here, is roll that high lane through 1 and 2, which the high lane seems to be a little stronger through 1 and 2. Ooh, that's a big block by Drew Himmelman right there on Jason Gracias. I think that high lane is a little better through 1 and 2 because the exit on 2 is kind of tight. It's a little more, you have a little more wheel in the truck, so it binds up a little bit more on the bottom versus when you're up top, you don't have quite as much wheel in it. You're not going to bind the truck up so much, scrub speed off versus 3 and 4, a little more open, especially on the exit of 4. So I think right here you're going to see that 4 have a good exit off down the backstretch. But Peter, it's so hard to clear on the outside here at Las Vegas. Typically not a track that the high lane is super strong at, not a Kansas, but we're seeing it work here tonight.
Yeah, of course, iRacing has reworked some of these racetracks, and they definitely reworked Las Vegas Motor Speedway to get that middle and upper groove a little bit more grip. And we're definitely seeing that here tonight with Nick Kessler in that number 4 machine, now finally losing out to Maher, but he tries to do an over-under and might just pull it off here as he went all the way down to the apron to get underneath the 17 BagCraft machine. They're tight going into turn number 3 and 4. Can Maher roll that middle groove? It might be a little bit looser up there. It seemed like a little unnervy for that number 17 there through turn number 3 and 4. But hey, he's going to hold on to the side of the Taz Racing Customs number 4 machine. Of course, Taz Racing Customs, one of the series sponsors here this season in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. They always giving out the Taz Racing Customs Biggest Mover of the Race Award. We are seeing a little bit of smoke out there on the racetrack, not seeing anything on the list of events of the race to indicate that someone might have spun or anything like that, but we, of course, definitely still stay green flag conditions, as our championship 4 are currently sitting in the 4th position with Andrew Himmelman, the 7th position with Christopher Darling, and the 10th position with Stan Hausman, so 3 spots between each of them. And we have Matt Cherry sitting down in 16th, 1.8 laps down. He will go 2 laps down here in a little bit. If you're curious about the lap times for Matt Cherry, they're not terrible, but they're definitely the slowest of the cars still running, barring Kyle Lewis. About a half second slower per lap as Tristan Maher gets almost into the side of Nick Kessler. He has to check up there, and now this field closing in very quickly on the number 18 of Kyle Lewis, who will go down there onto the apron to let the field on by. Very gentlemanly thing to do for Kyle Lewis. But meanwhile, it's Nick Kessler getting himself back up to the front, and there's side-by-side action between the 1 of Gracias and the number 8 of Himmelman here, Drew.
Yeah, it looked like Himmelman lost the nose or maybe the back end through 1 and 2, cost him at least 1 spot to the number 26, put the 11 of Chris Darling, the championship contender Chris Darling, who's competing with that number 8 right now, and kind of where those guys finish if the race somehow stopped now, I mean, right, hypotheticals. But basically, those two are racing each other right now to be in that championship spot, especially with those stage points coming in not too long. Peter, what, about 20 laps or so are we going to see that stage caution? And so this is important to finish ahead of your championship rivals, because then it just gives you a little bit more leeway, especially if you finish with a gap, with 1 car between you and the truck behind you. Now you can just run right on the tailgate of the guy that you're competing with, and you're going to outscore him. So at least until we get to the wins, right? Like, let's say you're running 7th and 8th. You're good if you're in 8th and you score 2 more stage points than that championship competitor, as the number 77 has a big wiggle there through 3 and 4. I think number 1 of Jason Crosby is going to get by him, but a good run thus far for Doug Neal. But Peter, we have seen some absolutely incredible racing up front. The 17 and the 4 have been racing the absolute heck out of each other door to door, not giving themselves a lot of room. And I think when you're that 8 and that number 11, you're like, oh, good Lord, whenever they get a little close on corner entry, which is where these problems feel like they tend to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. We did see that graphic at the bottom right. We'll see a little bit of that here tonight. Those are where the Championship 4 drivers are relative to one another out there on the racing track. The only thing is Matt Cherry, unfortunately, is almost 2 laps down now relative to his championship contenders. But like you said, Drew, Tristan Maher and Nick Kessler going toe-to-toe with one another, and again, they are really close here down the backstretch. Mitchell Adams trying to figure out which one of these drivers to go with. He just can't figure out which one of these drivers is going to have the big run out of the corner, and quite rightfully so, because it seems like Tristan Maher and Nick Kessler are just glued to one another right now. Now Maher looks high. We're riding on board, of course, with the MaxGrafix.co. 49 of Mitchell Adams, your reigning series champion, his race for 3 in a row. Coming up a little bit short, unfortunately, this season, as he's now to the inside of Tristan Maher. So maybe, I said, Drew, he's trying to figure out which one of these drivers to go with. Well, he's decided to go with Nick Kessler as he stays glued to that white line.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how this really aggressive side-by-side racing, especially with the 4 and the 17, affects their long-run tire life. I don't know that this run. I mean, this run will be lengthy, I guess, right? A fairly early pit stop for most of these drivers. But typically, when you're racing side-by-side, you tend to wear your stuff out a little bit more than if you want. And those guys that have been racing side-by-side but staying fairly consistent with their lane, is the high line going to be better on tires on the long run? Is the low line going to be better? Do you have any insight into that, Peter? I know you're one of those guys that I think of when I think of guys that know how to take care of their stuff but be fast. Which lane would you be looking to run, given kind of the equality of the two middle and bottom groove if you're trying to save your stuff?
I mean, to me, iRacing has never been kind to that high line when it comes to saving tire. That's my personal thoughts. I've done iRacing for quite some time, and it always seems like the inside groove is just a little bit better. And the reason why I say that is because usually that inside groove, you usually have to let off just a little bit earlier. And when you let off a little bit earlier, don't put as much right front wheel in it, or right wheel in it, or what am I saying? You put left wheel in it, but you're getting weight on the right front of the truck. And because you're not putting as much wheel into the truck, you're not saving you're saving more tire, you're backing off, you're just letting the car naturally get to the apex. It just seems like, to me, that has been what iRacing has preferred, and it doesn't seem to benefit that high lane quite as much, except if you're at a track like Kansas Speedway, which is, there's a lot more grip up on that high line than there is on the low line. So here tonight, I expect to see these drivers go for broke, and I believe I said Kansas was last week. It was not last week at Kansas. It was Chicagoland last week. As you see the field again catching up to Kyle Lewis. He's going to stay off the racetrack yet again. He is heavily damaged and off pace, about 2 seconds off the pace for the people counting at home. Not that you should be counting that at all. I think if you are, you're probably not spending your time all too wisely. You're probably spent more wisely watching this battle for the race lead, as is again Tristan Maher and Nick Kessler side by side for the top spot. And look who's crept himself up into third. That's Andrew Himmelman.
Yeah, Peter, great racing up here between the number 4 machine and the 17. The number 4 really turns in on the 17 right there, right on his door. And we've seen quite a few instances of net code between leaders at times in recent weeks. So whenever you guys get that close, it can be a little sketchy out there. But it almost seems like if you're the leading 2 trucks, Peter, that's where the line is the most equal as the 4 gets sideways. Oh, are they gonna be able to save it? The 11 has some front-end damage for sure. Caution is out.
And Christopher Darling, one of our championship 4, could be the second one to fall here tonight. He's around. Let's see what happened here. Go on board with driver the number 11 machine, Nick Kessler. He just gets a little bit high up on the racetrack. Same thing happened to the number 18 machine earlier. Look at the number 11. He gets into the 26, and he got a little bit of rear-end contact as well, and grinds it to a halt. That's quite a bit of front-end damage to the Taz Racing Customs number 11. Let's see if we can get one more look at this one here, Drew, on the 3-wide TV camera, going off into the corner. We'll zoom it out just a little bit. There's the contact. Ooh, Jason Gracias getting into the back of Chris Darling. Look at Mitchell Adams just squeaking on through. But man, that's 2 of our 4 championship drivers into trouble in the first half of tonight's race.
Yeah, and I didn't think that was very hard contact by Chris, and I didn't see that rear end. That rear end impact, I think, is going to be harsh as well. Yeah, you see the 4 just start to over-rotate, and you just, when the car is sliding and off throttle, basically he's scrubbing more speed than you can possibly do in that split second if you're the 26 or the 11, right? There's just not much you can do once he really starts to slow down because of friction and letting off the gas. You're just going to hope that you go in the right direction, but I feel like that 11, damage-wise, at least visually, we don't know actual damage pace-wise and whatnot, what that 11 actually has, but it looks pretty severe for kind of the low-speed contact that was had. I think in real life, you would probably just pull out that right front fender a little bit on that 11 machine and probably be okay. That rear is pretty pushed in. There's quite a bit of front-end damage on that thing, but certainly things leaning towards being favorable for Drew Himmelman, given the 2 guys that he was racing closest with have some significant damage here. Great news for Stan Houseman, because Peter, I mean, if something were to happen to that number 8 machine, all of a sudden Stan Houseman sitting in the driver's seat as this 11 machine on pit road getting that damage fixed.
Yes, Stan Houseman was really the long shot, and looks like Chris Darling has called it a night in the number 11 machine. You saw him there just disappear off the racetrack. He must have some terminal damage there, Drew, that it's enough for him to call it quits here tonight. Doug Neal has a little bit of left front damage on the Simbox 77. We'll see if he brings it down pit road here under this particular lap. Looks like he says no to that. Bit of a surprise there. Stan Houseman also staying out in the Beer Street Journal number 39 Ford F-150. Tristan Maher and Andrew Himmelman right back behind them. They both came down and took 4 fresh tires. So bit of a surprise to see Stan Houseman stay out. Same thing with Doug Neal. A little bit concerned with that strategy call here, Drew. We'll wait and see. But definitely seeing that Matt Cherry is on pit road now. I believe Matt Cherry was not the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award winner. That would be Adam Dama in the number 82 Army Esports Racing Machine. So Dama gets himself back onto the lead lap. He will move himself up to 14th. We'll have 14 trucks on the lead lap. Matt Cherry in the number 38 machine will still be 1 lap down. He's still getting some of that damage repaired. Chris Darling has called it quits, and his night is done. Not seeing him out there on the racetrack at all. So, wow. 2 of our championship drivers having significant issues here in the early running. And, of course, I think the reason why, and this makes sense here, Drew, Doug Neal, Stan Houseman elected to stay out is because we're so close to the stage caution. Now, stage points not in effect here tonight. There won't be any stage points. If you're one of the playoff drivers like Stan Houseman, you're not going to get any stage points here once we get to the first stage, the one and only stage that we have here in the National Sim Racing Association Staging Sports Podcast Truck Series. So Doug Neal, Stan Houseman, they have a couple of laps of green until that stage caution does wave. I still don't know about the call because it's been 30 or so laps since they were last on pit road. That's going to be a pretty significant amount, Drew.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. There's only 14 trucks on the lead lap. You only have, I mean, when it goes green, 7 laps to go. When we go green, for Doug Neal and Stan Houseman, who knows? Maybe we get another caution at the restart, and then Stan Houseman gets all these stage points and gets to finish 2 positions ahead of Andrew Himmelman, and now just kind of has to keep in contact with the number 8 machine. I don't hate it for Stan Houseman. I'm worried that he might not get any stage points, which could absolutely hurt his chances. But I don't know. I feel like if you're the 39, you see this opportunity, take a little bit of a gamble. I don't think I would necessarily do it, but I understand why he would. He's not going to lose a lap here in 7 laps. So we'll see how it works out for the 39. Maybe it works. I think it's less likely to work than to not work, but I applaud Stan Houseman for thinking outside the box. Sometimes this stuff works, and you have the number 8 machine right behind you. So worst case, you get a bad restart, and you kind of drag the 8 down with you. I think as Doug Neal now pacing the field through turns 3 and 4 as the pace car will be pulling off momentarily. And here on lap 43, coming to lap 44, we will restart this race after now 2 championship contenders out. And yeah, definite wheel spin for both the 77 and the 39. Not a great restart. Doug Neal, a great jump there, though. As now here comes the 8 of Drew Himmelman to the inside of that number 39 machine going into turn 1.
Yeah, and right now on board with Doug Neal, who, of course, did not pit. Got the number 17 of Tristan Maher in the Bagcraft Chevrolet all over his back bumper. He's going to look to the inside. We're going to be side by side for the race lead. Going off into turn number 3, and looks like the 17 of Maher makes it look easy. Ooh, Andrew Himmelman, the number 8 machine. Oh, Andrew Himmelman, what a save from the Simshot Chevrolet Silverado. He was looking towards the inside wall there briefly, and Drew, that could have been a huge moment for one of our championship contenders here tonight. Great save from the number 8.
Yeah, I think Stan Houseman was thinking, oh my goodness, could this be happening? But a great save by the number 8, and I mean, kind of his own doing. Like, definitely made a mistake kind of strode the blending between the apron and the racing surface. When you do that, de-wedges the truck, throws it sideways, but a great save nonetheless. He'll be glad to get those tires off the number 8 machine, though. Here in a few laps is caution, caution, caution.
Yeah, hearing that this is the stage break that is just now coming out, so this will count as the stage break here tonight, the one and only stage break that we have. The stage will be won by Tristan Maher. Doug Neal going to come home second, so it worked out for Doug Neal there, Drew, in the number 77. Did not work out for Stan Houseman as he fell all the way back to 11th very, very quickly in the number 39 Beer Street Journal Ford F-150. We'll see whether or not these drivers come back down pit road. I believe both Doug Neal and Stan Houseman will definitely come down pit road here in just a lap or so. But for the rest of the field, they might elect to stay out. I don't know. Get some track position. It could be a few interesting calls for some of these drivers as they form up behind the pace car here tonight. Let's go check out the chat here tonight. Haven't really checked in with you guys all too much. As in the chat, Andrew Himmelman is the fans' odds-on favorite to win the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast title. 62% of the vote. Matt Cherry, 12% of the vote. Stan Houseman, 6% of the vote. And Chris Darling, 19% of the vote. But Drew, if you do the math, 27% of that vote is now out of this race. Well, I say out of the race. Matt Cherry's pretty heavily damaged. Things are going to have to go his way if he's going to want to win this title. Guys, you can't change your vote. People are changing their vote in front of my eyes. But we'll end that poll right there before you guys can change your vote, you bunch of cheaters, I'll tell you what. Garrett Gleason in the chat saying, never mind, he got it working. Oh, he was saying that Tristan Maher had no mic. David Ditto saying, great great driving, Drew. I'm watching with my eyes covered. Tana Himmelman. Josh Sobel in the chat. How you doing, Josh? Long time no walkie-talkie there, buddy. Chris Darling saying Stan Houseman is the only competition left for Andrew Himmelman here tonight. The only driver definitely with a full hot rod, as we've seen Matt Cherry have his issues. Speaking of Matt Cherry, as you see the race off pit road, looks like we had some takers, some not takers. Himmelman, the first driver off of pit road with 4 fresh tires. Of course, not really any tire limits per se here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. But for you Matt Cherry fans, there is some good news here, Drew. He is your Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award, so at least he's back on the lead lap. But you can still see all that damage on that number 38 truck that he's going to have to put up with for the last 2/3 of tonight's race.
Yeah, I mean, he did what he needed to do. I think he kind of maximized his time on pit road and got as much of that truck fixed as kind of time would allow. He managed to not go 2 down, which would have been huge because there's not guaranteed to be another caution now. We knew there was going to be one. So back on the lead lap with the damaged truck, nonetheless, but we saw with just a few laps to go in the stage when that 8 got sideways, I mean, it's certainly not over when you're Matt Cherry. Unfortunately, Chris Darling has decided to retire the number 11 machine. But, I mean, props to Matt Cherry for sticking this thing out and seeing it through because he's giving himself an opportunity. He did what he needed to do, getting damage fixed, losing a lap, maintaining relatively competitive pace given what the damage was on that thing. But I like the heart that we're seeing from that number 38. We will see if it pays off. Doesn't take much. Some weird fuel strategy even, Peter, could see that number 38 through to the championship. Stan Houseman and that number 39 machine. I don't think I necessarily would have foreseen Stan Houseman being the second place of the championship trucks here on lap 50, but that's taking advantage of opportunity. And then Drew Himmelman running in 4th, of course, the current favorite, both through the polling and I think based on what we're seeing right now, the top running of our championship guys. Great finish in the stage, which sets himself up really well for the rest of this race.
And here's the thing about Stan Houseman, Drew. You go back to his first ever career win in sim racing back at Talladega Superspeedway. Very, very popular win. Last week, 8 laps to go. Looks like Stan Houseman has no opportunity of making it into the championship 4. JT Poole's computer turns off. Houseman makes it in. extremely lucky. I mean, you got to be lucky to win at Talladega, but you also got to be a little bit lucky when their entire season's on the line with 8 laps to go and one of your competitors' computers turns off. But Houseman's made it here by a little bit of fortune, but I say that. He's fantastic at keeping his truck clean, and that's how he's got into positions many, many times before. We've seen some good finishes out of him. Think back to Milwaukee a couple of weeks back here on 3Y TV. He's just one of those drivers who knows how to keep that truck clean, and he's doing that again here tonight. And if that's what wins you the championship, you know the old saying, to finish first you must finish, and that could be what it takes here tonight at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Of course, now that Matt Cherry's had some opportunity to continue to get that truck repaired, can he find a little bit more pace on this restart? We don't know, but it's going to be the 38 there in 13th for the restart, Stan Houseman in 12th, and Andrew Himmelman in 4th. Your 3 remaining championship drivers is Christopher Darling, if you're just now tuning in, was one of the championship 4, involved in an accident about 10 laps ago. He has called it quits. Night done for the number 11 Taz Racing Customs machine. But Drew, we're about to turn another page here because green flag is out here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series.
Tristan Maher leads the field to the green flag here, now on lap 51. Jason Gracias, as you mentioned, Peter, also was caught up in that incident. He ran into the back of the number 11 machine in one of those incidents, and he is up in second position. The 971 of Nathan Maurer up there, and then Drew Himmelman in 4th, and I think Doug Neal is going to grab 5th position going into turn 3 on this restart. So, not what we've seen all year long as far as guys up front, but certainly the number 17 has had a ton of pace tonight. No surprise when Jason Gracias is up front. I think a lot of these guys are kind of happy he didn't make that minimum race requirement because he certainly would have put himself in a great position as far as the chase is concerned. Nathan Maurer, a really solid run as Drew Himmelman looking to the inside of that 971 going into turn 3. Not quite there. Big Stan Houseman is going to take that bottom line. And JT Poole now trying to take advantage of the move that number 8 machine made. And he's going high on Drew Himmelman. And I think the 8 now is to the inside of that 971 going into turn 1. And we will see if Nathan can hold him off. And there's Doug Neal right there, just behind these two, and the 49 quite a ways behind them. That's kind of something that surprised me, Peter, is the 49 kind of strong early, but certainly has not had the pace when he started to get a little tire wear on the number 49 machine.
Yeah, and he also picked up a little bit of damage a couple of cautions ago. That will not help on the number 49 of Mitchell Adams, who was trying to go for 3 championships in a row here this season, but that will, of course, not happen. Andrew Himmelman now up into the 3rd spot. If you're wondering where Matt Cherry and Stan Houseman are, well, look at this. Matt Cherry, with all that damage, has actually been able to get in front of Stan Houseman, at least early in the run here, running right there behind Jeff Price, running in the 11th spot. So, Drew, maybe Matt Cherry has got that truck fixed up enough that he can at least run in the pack. We know that the draft is extremely important with these trucks, with how big of a hole they punch in the air, so maybe that is working to the 38's advantage at this current stage of the run as Stan Houseman and Jeff Price go side by side. Price going all the way up to the top side of the racetrack will give that spot to Houseman, now up to 11th. Now Houseman trying to get around the 49 of Mitchell Adams. And Drew, I mentioned that damage that Mitchell Adams had. Now, it doesn't look like a whole lot of damage, but you can definitely see just a smidgen of damage on that number 49 machine on that right rear, and it definitely seems to have affected that truck, perhaps even more than the damage on Matt Cherry's number 38, which visibly looks significantly more damaged.
Yeah, that 38 certainly quite a bit of rear and front end damage, but running relatively competitive lap times is Matt Cherry right there. Another guy really competitive, the number 8 machine, able to pass the 971 and has been holding off JT Poole. And Peter, he's just waiting for a long green run. I do absolutely have faith that Drew Himmelman will have some great long run speed. We just got to get a long run in to see what that number 8 can do. That has been his strength, it feels like, all season, especially in the second half of the season. as he's well positioned now in third position. Nearest championship rival would be the 38 machine in ninth position, so really well positioned for that number 8. But Peter, I feel like we haven't talked about our leader enough who we're riding on board right now, Tristan Maher. He had some incredible runs throughout this season, especially the Roval comes to mind for that number 17 machine when I thought he was going to be able to snatch the victory at that race. But he seemed, when he hits, he is as fast as anybody. He just needs to have a little bit more consistency race to race as far as pace is concerned, because, I mean, he certainly has had, if not the most pace, right up there with anybody as far as pace is concerned tonight.
Yeah, Maher definitely has, in my opinion, some strong racetracks where the racetrack just clicks with him. And then, kind of on the flip side, has races that just absolutely do not click with him. And definitely the number 17 of Maher, oof, man, almost came down there on the number 1 of Jason Crustis. But if you look at the results for the number 17 this year, third last week at Nashville, very, very quick last week, second at the Roval. Those are his only 2 top 5s this season. And then he's got 8th at Michigan. He had a 9th at Charlotte. And those are the only other 2 top 10s. And then just a bunch of inconsistency along there. So if Maher can kind of figure it out, which we know he can, he's showing his speed again here tonight, he can have an opportunity next season to go for the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series title. It's going to be really interesting to see next season because, Drew, there's a new rule that's going to be in effect next season where if you have a 3,000 I rating or above, you aren't going to be able to participate here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. There's going to be a cutoff limit for drivers with I rating, which is going to make some of the drivers in the field right now ineligible beginning next season. For all you people wondering, kind of back at home, we have quite a few drivers in the field above 3,000 I rating. I mean, Andrew Himmelman's one of those drivers above 3,000. Mitchell Adams is another driver above a 3,000 I rating. We had a couple of other drivers, namely some of the Silent Syndicate racing machines. Those drivers were above 3,000 I rating. So we won't see Andrew Himmelman next season. JT Poole, he's at 4,108 I rating. He's not going to be in next season. And for all the people at home who might not know the term iRating or might not be as familiar with iRacing has a scoring system. The scoring system basically is an indication of how good of or how fast of a driver you are. And they have it across different disciplines. They have it on ovals, they have one on road course, and your number is independent depending on what discipline of racing you're in. And iRating, if you race a lot, you gain I rating if you perform well in the races, and it also allows iRacing to put you into a competitive group. So if you might not be the fastest driver, well, you'll be racing against other drivers of different pace to you, and it's all kind of done through this I rating scoring system. So NSRA wants to be a spot where drivers can come and fairly quickly become competitive without racing week in, week out. And they're enacting this cap to be able to do so, and hopefully next year it will lead to a bigger car count, drivers feeling more comfortable to race here in the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. We will have to see how that goes here as a new season will kick off about 4 weeks time from tonight. Going to be very interesting. But meanwhile, Andrew Himmelman, Drew, is going for the race lead in the Sim Shot Chevy Silverado side by side with Tristan Maher.
Yeah, Andrew Himmelman, again, just needed a long run. About 15 laps here that we have been green, and now we're starting to see the 8 really come to the front as he takes the race lead, completing lap 65. And Peter, to talk to that I rating limit, I'm not a big fan of I rating. I don't think it necessarily determines skill. It kind of indicates that you can finish in fields that are whatever competitiveness well, but I mean, there are guys that are 1,200 I rating that will absolutely give it a certain car or a certain track be faster than somebody with a 4,000 I rating. I think it's, JT Poole in the number 17, a little bit of contact on the front stretch. I thought that was going to be a big wreck, as that was a significant door check between those two drivers. I was just focused on that, Peter. I thought that was going to be another caution right there between those two, as we will get that replay queued up, and boom, right there. I thought JT was going to lose it, as it's just not a place that you're typically expecting to have that door-to-door contact, as I think the 17 probably came down right there, Peter. But I wouldn't be surprised if NSRA decided. Now, I haven't really talked to them about this. This is kind of speculation and kind of what my decision-making would be, but I would be surprised if they removed any of the current drivers. I don't think anybody has really dominated. Drew Himmelman's been quick the second half of the season, but I don't think he's leaps and bounds ahead of anybody else. I think I have been a part of league in which Peter specifically has been basically leaps and bounds above everybody, or maybe he and a couple other drivers, but I don't really view the truck series, the Stay Tuned Sports Truck Series, as really having that problem. So I would hope that they would keep our current drivers, as we do have a caution.
Yeah, we're hearing that driver of the number 6 machine, Doug Milliner, has had an issue. Here we go on the 3-wide TV replay, going through turn number 3 and 4. Back end just kicks out on him, goes and just kisses the outside wall. And I said just kisses the outside wall. That was unfortunately on the front end of it, as it looks like he has now decided to end up kind of in a little bit more trouble than that. So the number 6 machine is definitely going to be off the pace here, unfortunately. So, as fortunately, folks, for the second week in a row, the live timing has crashed again on us. So hopefully we can get that back up here for you guys very quickly here, Drew. But we are back under caution here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
Yeah, another caution. Not, I think, what that 8 wanted to see. I think he would have preferred to have a longer green run going. But a little bit of a reset for some of these guys. Guys like JT Poole, who is not damage-free now. Also, the 26 with a little bit of right side damage. And guys like Stan Hausman, by the way, Peter, up to 7th position after restarting outside of the top 10. So a nice little run up through the field for Mr. Stan Hausman, and putting himself in a really good position, getting back by Matt Cherry, who fell back a little bit in the number 39 machine. But an interesting turn of events for these race leaders, as sometimes you can just get a bad pit stop, Peter. It kind of gets you behind the 8 ball a little bit, and kind of take you out of your rhythm. Especially, I know I'm certainly a rhythm guy. I might be having some great pace, but if I get a caution and I'm used to the rhythm of the old tires, and suddenly you have new tires and you're restarting, it can kind of certainly throw me off. I know that I'm not alone in that, so it'll be interesting to see how this changes everything. Is that number 17 machine is going to have a great pit stop right here, Peter. There that 17 goes, and the number 8 just not quite as good, and Tristan Maher is going to retake the lead.
Yeah, Maher wins the race off pit road. Himmelman second, Gracias third, then Doug Neal, Nathan Maurer fourth and fifth. You have to wait quite a bit for Stan Hausman and Matt Cherry. Hausman comes off pit road in 7th, and Matt Cherry comes off pit road in 9th. 2 of your other Championship 4 drivers. You're just now joining us. We've had 4 or 5 cautions up till now. Of course, that includes the stage caution flag here tonight in the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series Championship Finale. Really want to thank each and every one of you joining us here tonight. We really do appreciate all of you with us this season on the channel. Tana Himmelman saying he kissed the wall and then did some twirling hugs with the wall. That's one way to describe it. Unfortunately, Doug Milliner picking up a little bit more damage. Stay Tuned Sports saying, is a certain person letting the pressure get to him? Interesting. Stay Tuned Sports saying, I think we had 5 or 6 different winners out of the first 7 weeks. That we did. You are exactly right. Christopher Darling saying the setup gets pretty loose after 18 laps of running. Just have to let it get there. Then you're going to see some separation. Well, we definitely saw it get loose for the number 6 of Stan Houseman. Josh Sobel saying, I'm used to seeing Lorello, Adams, etc. up at the front of the field. Well, that is definitely not exactly the case here tonight with Tristan Maher, Andrew Himmelman, and Jason Gracias, your top 3 right now. So definitely some different faces that he's used to as we have recently crossed the halfway mark. Francesca Bolds in the chat rooting on Andrew Himmelman. Chris Darling saying, I had an engine shut off, so sticking it out at 140 miles an hour wouldn't have made sense. Definitely Chris Darling having quite a bit of damage after being involved in an accident right there around lap number 40 here tonight, as pace car lights continue to twinkle there as they work their way around the racetrack.
Yeah, and as far as I think the number 49 is concerned, Mitchell Adams, I know he had some scheduling conflicts which took him out of this. I think he's had the pace to make this Final Four, and likely would have, or at least certainly been fighting for it had he not had those couple conflict issues that happens in life that unfortunately caused him to miss enough races to take him out of it. And then, just James Morello just wasn't quite there at the end. Some incidents on track and that stuff can happen. It's really cool though to see those guys that were in the championship kind of contention and were eliminated through these rounds and are still showing up. That's something that doesn't always happen. And certainly there are some guys not here tonight that were here in other rounds of the championship, but a huge shout out to guys like Doug Neal and JT Poole and drivers like those who experience kind of the heartbreak that is losing out on a chance to compete for the championship, but then still showing up that next race. That can be a hard thing to do. I certainly have had that kind of feeling where man, I just don't want to show up the next race. This really stinks. But absolutely, thanks to those guys for continuing to race here in the NSRA Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series finale. In fact, here at Las Vegas, where we will be crowning a champion. But first, we got to get through this restart as the number 17 of Tristan Maher takes the field pretty slowly to this restart zone. A great restart by that number 1 of Jason Gracias, Peter. As I apologize, folks, I'm just a little ahead of our broadcast, but I'll let you take it away, Pete.
Yeah, well, let's get back live. How about that, folks? Sorry about that. Didn't realize we were not live. Sometimes that can happen. There we go. Now we're back live. As you see down the backstretch, it is the number 17, Tristan Maher, and the number 1 of Jason Gracias going toe-to-toe. Where's Andrew Himmelman? Oh, and all this madness, Drew, he slid back to 5th there. Not a good restart for the number 8 machine.
Yeah, he got taken 3 wide on the restart going into 1, so he lost a couple positions there. As now he's only 2 positions ahead of Steve Houseman, who does have bonus points. I believe. Am I misspeaking, Peter? Bonus points do count for the stage as far as this is concerned. I know in real life there's some weird rules regarding stage points and bonus points and whatever, but the stage points do count. Am I correct in thinking that?
No, so the rule tonight for the Championship 4 is it's whoever finishes the highest in the field. So no bonus points, no stage points, none of that. It is whoever finishes highest out of the Championship 4 drivers. So right now it would be Andrew Himmelman, then Stan Houseman, and then Matt Cherry, as Cherry finds himself a couple of positions back behind Stan Houseman. So none of that is in effect for the Championship 4 here tonight. I do believe that the other drivers here who are not in the Championship 4, who might be fighting for positions in points, I believe it is in effect for them, but not your top 4 here tonight. So Himmelman, Houseman, Cherry, and Darling unable to score any type of stage points or bonus points. As you see Andrew Himmelman trying to get to the outside here of Jason Gracias. Both of these drivers just came down pit road a minute ago, but man, oh man, Drew, Andrew Himmelman recovering from that poor restart very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly trying to regain ground. There's quite a bit of smoke there, Peter. I'm not sure what that smoke was from, but the number 8 making that high lane work. And some interesting insight given to us by Chris Darling in chat about how the dynamic of this setup tends to change over the course of a run. Fairly easy to drive, or let me make sure I'm getting these numbers correct. For the first 18 laps or so, then it starts to get pretty loose after that, and that's when you're going to start to see these guys separate themselves, and that's basically what we saw that last run, is that's when that number 8 started to really separate himself from the drivers around him. But Peter, that's counting on you get 18 laps. If we don't get 18 laps consistently from here to the end, it's going to kind of be this quick shakeup. Is now the number 77 of Doug Neal, having a great restart, making a move to the inside of Drew Himmelman. Oh, loses the front end a little bit through 1 and 2.
Yeah, they are now halfway down the backstretch, still side by side with Doug Neal and JT Poole. Himmelman right there in third, just maybe waiting, Drew, for another long run. We saw him really be quick and charge his way to the front after about 15 or so laps, but he's trying to get there maybe a little bit faster this time as he looks to the inside of Jason Grassi's here in turn number 1.
Yeah, the number 1 way up the track right there in turn 1, and we saw earlier with the number 18 truck what can happen if you enter a little too high, especially on these colder tires. You can really lose the back end fairly easily, as Drew Himmelman seems like he is on a mission these last few laps all over the rear bumper of that number 17 machine here on lap 80. And Peter, these laps are really quickly clicking away as we have just 60 laps to go here now, folks, and the number 8 machine now making a move to the inside of that 17. And Peter, I do have a question for you. You're the fuel guru. How many laps do you think these guys are going to be able to do? I assume it's going to be a one-stop race from here to the end?
Yeah, I think it is going to be a one-stop race. I don't think they can make it quite to the end of the race. That might be in the back of some drivers' mind, though, as, of course, these drivers were last on pit road, lap number 70. So you do the math, that is right at the halfway mark. I just don't think they can make it to the end of the race. But if you're one of those drivers like Stan Hausman, maybe thinking about gambling a little bit, or maybe Matt Cherry, because he's got all that damage. You have to start thinking about maybe doing something a little bit different. Maybe you'll get lucky with a caution flag coming out. Maybe you want to stay out there as long as you can. Maybe you want to pit a little bit earlier. I don't know. You can shake it up a couple different ways. That's one of the funnest things about racing. If, of course, we don't have any more cautions, which we'll most likely see everyone down pit road because that's been pretty much the norm all night long. Racing, you can get these different strategies. They can work out. They can not work out. But they can definitely be storylines to follow. And we love to follow that type of stuff up here in the booth and see these drivers try and claw their way to the front of the field like Andrew Himmelman now has once again. Got around Tristan Maher. Kind of played a little bit of a dummy on Tristan Maher. Just kind of stayed up a little bit higher through the tri-oval. Let Maher slide up the racetrack a little bit, and then Himmelman snuck underneath him. Just kind of cracked open the door and slipped on through, but here comes Maher in the 17, maybe having a little bit of a look back. No, he ducks back in behind the number 8 machine.
Yeah, and I know that having talked with the driver of that number 8, Drew Himmelman, that one thing that he's really done a lot of, especially towards the second half of the season, is just a lot of official races with this truck. And I think when you do a ton of those races, and this is where, again, I-rating huge flaw is there's not an I rating per vehicle, it's per track type. That's assuming that you're just as good in this as you are in an Indy car, which is absolutely ridiculous to me. But he's very familiar with these trucks and how to set up passes, how to make those moves on those drivers around him. And that's one thing that while talent can't just pick those things up, that comes from, I mean, usually can, and I'm not going to say is absolute in that sense, but usually that's something that just comes from repetitive laps in racing that you can't just step in a truck once a week and figure out. It takes a lot of those races, and that's what we've seen this 8 be able to really figure out is those little tricks that you learn when you put a ton of laps behind this in this truck. And we're seeing that really pay off here as we just complete lap 86. As Stan Hausman, though, Peter, I believe he's up to 6th position, a solid run for this number 39 in a night that I think that, if Las Vegas were having odds on this race, he probably would have been the lowest, or I guess the highest odds of competing for this championship. But he's absolutely doing what he needs to do to put himself in a position to potentially capitalize and grab this championship here in Las Vegas.
Yeah, so Hausman there just laying back. And just think, Drew, if we have green flag pit stops here tonight at Vegas, we could see the entire championship hinge on getting to pit road and off pit road without making a mistake. How many times have we seen drivers throw away an opportunity at the win by speeding on pit road, sliding through their pit box, spinning, getting to pit road, that type of thing. It could be a very stressful pit stop if they do indeed have to make a final pit stop under green flag condition. As you see, Tristan Maher continue to hound the rear end of the SimShot Chevy Silverado. Can he get a run out of turn number 1 and 2? He went a little bit high going through turn number 1 to try and get that run out of turn number 2. Here he is halfway down the back stretch. Drew not quite able to do anything with it. Ducks back in behind him.
Yeah, an opportunity for the number 17 that last time, but not quite able to really set that pass up completely. But a really, really solid effort there by the number 17, because quite frankly, Peter, I was expecting this number 8 machine to start to walk away from Tristan, but he and that number 1 of Jason Gracias have done a fantastic job keeping touch with the number 8, maybe figuring out how he takes care of his stuff on those long runs, maybe learning a little bit from that last longer green flag run in which we saw the 8 start to separate himself, as now the 17 feels like he's making a move back once again, as closing right there on the rear bumper of that number 8.
So once again, these two up at the front, continuing to play off one another. One goes high, one goes low, and then seems like the next lap they kind of reverse, but lap count is fairly quickly winding down now, just under 50 laps to go here left in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series season here, the 2021 A season, and then of course we'll be moving over to the 2021 B season here in a couple of weeks' time, right here on 3 Wide TV. Stay Tuned Sports Podcast staying on board next season. Going to be great to have them here on 3 Wide TV. And who knows, maybe we can get old Stay Tuned Sports Podcast up here in the booth at some point. We've done it in the past, and just got to give the series sponsor a big shout out here this year, and for helping everyone out here at the National Sim Racing Association put these races on for you folks in the chat, so you can sit back, relax, and enjoy the flag-to-fly coverage. Nick Bradley in the chat here tonight saying Andrew would definitely deserve it. His season overall has been fantastic. Definitely seems like Andrew's been finding pace over the last couple of weeks, as we now see Mitchell Adams, your reigning series champion, try and get around Stan Houseman. Looks like he will make that pass stick off into turn number 3. So slide Houseman back to 7th. He's right in front of Nathan Maurer in the 971 right there, who's running in 8th. And then it's a little bit of gap back to Vincent Valvano, who at this moment in time is the biggest mover of the race at this current moment in time. Let's jump back up to the front, as the top 3 now, Drew, starting to pull away just a little bit, but Maher still over the back bumper of the number 8.
Yeah, that the number 8 machine doing a great job, but that 77 actually of Doug Neal had quite a moment through 1 and 2 and hit the wall. There's quite a bit of tire smoke, got really loose through the center of the corner, and actually got into the wall and had quite a bit of damage and lost quite a bit of track position. But no caution, no major concerns there, but just a little minor drama going on. As it's great for Stan Houseman, as he's able to pick up that 6th position, as I believe we will get that replay queued up for you. Or is this a 38 machine coming on pit road, Peter?
Yeah, I don't know what happened here to Matt Cherry, but just comes down onto pit road, and I think he's calling it a night here. Then in his pit, he's been in his pit box now for about 2 minutes. Let's see if we can see if something happened, perhaps to the number 38 machine that might have led up to this. And if something did happen, we'll just quickly go back and see. But this is really unfortunate for Matt Cherry. I know he's had quite a bit of damage, on the number 38 machine, and has been doing a great job sticking with the pack, at least early in the run. Maybe the long run pace is just not there, Drew. Maybe he has to use all those tires early on. I'm not really seeing anything that might have led to that. But unfortunately, it appears Matt Cherry's night is done. Now, Doug Neal, the 77, is on pit road. And let's see if we can catch what happened to Doug Neal there, Drew. I know you mentioned that. Let's see if we can catch this right here. This should tell us what happened to the number 77 Simbox Chevy Silverado that really broke up this pack. Got loose right there and tried to save it. Oh, man, that's some heavy contact with the outside wall, and it looks like his night might be done as well.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly had to come on pit road for that. But, Peter, Chris Darling gave us that insight, which is so valuable. Thank you, Chris, for that. And you just see how loose these trucks get over the course of a run. We're seeing almost every truck in the field having small moments that can very, very quickly turn into big moments out there. So interesting by this number 77 to already come down pit road. It'll be really fascinating to see what will happen as far as everything is concerned. Up front, fairly settled. Drew Himmelman with almost 4/10 over Jason Gracias, about 4/10 over that number 17. What do we got queued up as far as replays are concerned?
We were just watching another look of the number 77 of Doug Neal and his struggles. Now, Himmelman has a 4/10 of a second lead over the new second-place driver, Drew. Jason Gracias in the Discount Tire Chevy Silverado now finds himself there. Tristan Maher about a half second on back. We do have a battle for position back behind them between JT Poole and Mitchell Adams. Look at these two racing together out there in the racetrack. And now Stan Hausman finds himself in the 6th position behind these two. And as the lap count continues to wind down, green flag pit stops presumably looming closer and closer. And just to keep kind of your eyes on it, Drew, these drivers pitted on lap number 70 with 70 laps to go. If you split 70 in half, it's 35. That number would be 105. Lap number 105 would be the 35 lap mark on tires. So if you were to split these stages in half, this final run in half, I should say, lap 105 would be when you want to come down pit road. Stan Hausman now finding himself kind of cooped up behind these two as they battle really hard for position right here on your screen.
Yeah, but what a job Stan's doing in this 39 machine, putting pressure on Drew Himmelman, right? I mean, as we mentioned, what we thought well, at least what I thought, as far as stage points are concerned, not in effect. So if this 39 can apply pressure, especially going in on these green flag stops, it just takes one small mistake, Peter, as you know, coming onto pit road, getting off of pit road, where you just get a little too excited. You get into the throttle early, coming off pit lane. You have a blend line violation. You just lock up a little bit too hard coming into the corners, and then all of a sudden, this 8-car having some penalty dramas, and then that puts the 39 in a great position. So that's what he needs to focus on is he needs to, number one, get by the number 49 and 26 who have absolutely burned up their stuff. There is no doubt in my mind that the 39 is the 4th quickest truck on track right now. It's just figuring out how to take advantage of that pace that Stan has over Mitchell Adams and over that 26 machine. Is what are we looking at now, Pete?
I was just trying to see if something has happened to Tristan Maher, but it has not. There was I think a lapped car kind of there in between. Ooh, well, speaking of Tristan Maher and Jason Gracias, they're both coming down pit road right now. Lap 105. So this is what I said, Drew. Lap 105 is splitting the final 70 laps in half. We've been green flag now for about 30 or so laps, 35 laps to go. We will just have to wait and see if this will bring down more of your top 5. Looks like Maher got in his pit box well, as did the number 1 machine. Is Andrew Himmelman going to come down pit road? He has some connection issues in the SimShot Chevy Silverado. Anyone else taking pit road this time? No, they are not. Garrett Gleason in the number 7 machine has had some contact with the wall. He has pitted as well, so he pitted on lap number 100. Jason Gracias, Tristan Maher are headed off pit road. Stan Hausman, number 39 on pit road. The BearStreetJournal.com Ford F-150 coming to his pit box for what might be his final pit stop of the season. Gets into his pit box nice and neatly. That crew will start to go to work. Now all eyes on Andrew Himmelman, and here comes Himmelman down onto pit road, Drew, in the SimShot Chevy Silverado for his potential final pit stop of the season. Looks like he got on pit road nice and cleanly. make sure there's no type of speeding penalty on the number 8 machine, but all things looking good for our championship contenders right now.
Yep, certainly no dramas for the number 8. I don't see any dramas for the 39 as long as he stays below that white line. I know that has been my Achilles heel more than once when you're just trying to maximize your exit, but a nice solid exit by that number 39. He's going to have a little advantage, but I don't think it's going to get him the race lead from Drew Himmelman. But that 8, solid pit stop. Now he's out of pit lane, and we'll see how conservative or aggressive he is coming out onto the racetrack, just staying way away from that white line. Love to see that. There is a little more banking the closer you get to that white line, but you just put yourself at a little bit more risk. It just takes one slip in iRacing to decide you get a patch the penalty, which is absolutely disastrous. But now, not huge championship-wise, but we know that 8 wants that race win here tonight, and now he's going to come out in what we believe will be 3rd position.
Yeah, you are right, Drew. Coming out in what will presumably cycle through to the 3rd position, assuming that, just looking at scoring pylon, he'll definitely cycle through to the 3rd position right now, but behind Gracias and Maher. But with Gracias and Maher now in front of Andrew Himmelman. Himmelman, of course, 1 lap fresher tires or thereabouts. In fact, I take that back. Looks like 2 lap fresher tires for Andrew Himmelman, which will definitely give him an advantage. Now maybe Maher and Gracias can kind of try and tag team the number 8 machine, try and hold him back there. Both of them kind of try and duct tape him to that 3rd spot, if you will, for the final 35 laps. Maher tries to throw a block on Himmelman, but Himmelman's got a little bit too much of a run. Says, you know what? I am just going to try and bust on through the duct tape and get myself back up to the race lead. We'll see if he can do it here, Drew.
Yeah, I think that 8 has that tire advantage, and he's going to try to make it work going into that turn 1. That's going to be a hard ask for that 1, but I think that tire advantage allowed him to carry that apex speed. But almost like Talladega, you have that high lane drafting with each other. They gain some good ground down the backstretch, but I just think long-term that these tires are absolutely going to make a difference, and they do through 3 and 4. Drew Himmelman reestablishes that race lead with 31 to go.
Yep, that's it. Andrew Himmelman, although we say the race lead, we do have 2 drivers yet to make a pit stop. That is Nathan Maher and Jeff Price. There's the 971 machine. The number 14 of Jeff Price is back behind him. These drivers that you're looking at right here on the kind of the left side of your screen right there, that is the number 49 of Mitchell Adams and JT Poole. Both of those trucks currently find themselves 1 lap down, as is at this present moment in time Stan Hausman in the number 39 machine. Nathan Maher in the 971, with him not yet to make a pit stop. He's right in front of the number 39. But good job by Stan Hausman to come down pit road. And at this moment in time, Drew, if when Jeff Price and Nathan Maher kind of all cycle on out to their positions, Stan Hausman would be finding himself in the 4th position. Jeff Price on pit road right now in the number 14 machine. There he is, the back channel production Chevrolet. I mean, Stan Hausman here, regardless of where Andrew Himmelman finishes, Stan Hausman potentially having his best run of the season, bar Talladega. Definitely his best run of the season on a 1.5 mile racetrack in that BeerStreetJournal.com F150. Got to sing as many praises about Stan Hausman here, showing what it takes to be a championship contender here in the National Sim Racing Association.
Yeah, I mean, he has certainly peaked when it has been most advantageous as far as competing for a championship is concerned. The number 39, a great showing tonight and throughout the playoffs. He has done what he needed to do to make sure that he gets to this position, capitalizing on other people's mistakes and misfortunes, has led that 39 to be on the track that he is. And this race is certainly not over, Peter. That 8 can still have problems with lap cars, can make his own mistakes. We saw that right before the stage break. It certainly isn't over, and that 39 is well positioned to capitalize on any potential situation that 8 might have, because quite frankly, Peter, the race for the race lead is not over. That 17, Tristan Maher, doing a fantastic job keeping up with Drew Himmelman after that 8 established that race lead.
And all it takes is a caution flag to throw this race for a loop. I mean, we've seen that many times this season as well. You saw Jason Shue there in the number 3 machine involved in an early accident. You see all that front-end damage on his Chevrolet Silverado. He is currently being scored 45 laps down, and will be coming to his pit crew this time. He is 20 laps behind Matt Cherry to pick up another spot, and then another 4 laps behind Doug Neal to pick up another spot. Looks like Adam Dama in the number 82 has taken the U.S. Army Esports Racing Machine to the garage as well here tonight. So we are down to just about 10 or so trucks at race pace between Nathan Maurer, who is now coming down pit road, getting the 971 yacht out just a little bit. So Maurer will be the last of the lead lap trucks to make his final green flag pit stop of the season. And that will relinquish the race lead to the driver in the number 8 Simshot Chevrolet. Flashing across the start-finish line right there as Tristan Maher in his rearview mirror, with number 1 Jason Grassis a little bit further back. Then behind them, that's the number 7 of Garrett Gleason that you saw there. Maurer is still in his pit box. He will finally scoot on away, but he will fall well down the running order once he finally gets up to race pace. 23 laps ago, make that 22 this time by. Drew, the championship winding up here very quickly. Long green flag run since about the halfway mark here tonight.
Yeah, and you know, I feel kind of proud of my prediction that number 8 is going to establish his pace on these longer runs. That's what we have seen here tonight, though. That 17 never backing down from the challenge that number 8 has presented on these longer runs. But again, Peter, it just takes one truck spinning out right now, and I think that there would be a rash of cautions to the end, despite, actually, there's only 10 trucks left running on the racetrack. That's not a ton, as the 77 has retired to 82. We mentioned the 38 earlier of Matt Cherry having taken that number 38 championship contending machine behind the wall. So actually only 10 trucks. I don't know that cautions would necessarily breed cautions at this place, but Peter, that's certainly not what I expected tonight. That's an incredibly high attrition rate to only have 10 trucks running here on lap 120 out of our initial 22 starters.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you know, usually in your championship race, you see a very clean race. Drivers are a little bit afraid, you know, to hit one of your championship contenders, and we've seen, unfortunately, that happen a couple times here tonight with some of the incidents we've seen. But usually your championship race is one of the cleaner races of the season. But here tonight, we have seen a couple of multi-truck incidents bringing out several caution flags. I think we've seen 5 or 6 so far here tonight at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Not sure what the number exactly is. Maybe someone in the chat is keeping count of the caution flags, but definitely going to be interesting to see if we see another caution flag before the end of this one or not, because it could change the whole complexion not only of the race but the championship. Who knows? I mean, we saw Andrew Himmelman have a big moment at one point here tonight and almost lose control of the Simshot Chevy Silverado. We know these trucks get really loosey-goosey after about 18 laps into the run. And don't look now, Drew, but we are right now getting really close to that lap number 18 mark for most of these drivers here. So could make for a pretty hairy finish to tonight's race.
Yeah, I think that number 8's hoping that everybody has now kind of figured out that at that lap 18 mark, the truck gets a little sideways. But here, Peter, like as you mentioned, at the 18 mark, it feels like that 8 just opened up 2 truck lengths between he and that second place number 17 machine. Now looking at the number 49 of Mitchell Adams, battling JT Poole. JT running in 4th position, Mitchell in 5th, and then Stan Hausman right there in 6th position. This is a big battle potentially, as that 39 would gain quite a few spots and quite a full row of positions, actually 2 rows of positions if that restart were to happen, if he could grab that 4th position from JT Poole. And we've seen this 39 have the long run pace over these 2 drivers. Not necessarily something I typically would expect to stand. I mean, I'm sure if he watches this or somebody tells him, I certainly am not trying to diminish Stan's other parts of the season, but quite frankly, he has peaked during these playoffs as far as pace is concerned. I would not have expected that 39 machine to be up there competing with a JT Poole and a still defending back-to-back champion in Mitchell Adams, who has been one of the kind of pillars of standard that we hold drivers to as far as the trucks are concerned. But Peter, I am seeing a little bit of smoke coming out of turn 4. That leads me to think some of these guys are getting really, really loose here.
Yeah, they're getting yawed out just a little bit more. What we expected to see at this current stage of the run. And these drivers will continue to experience a loose racetrack all the way to the checkered flag. All it takes is a little bit of a mistake. We've seen that here tonight with some drivers just going a little bit higher up the racetrack. And if they do that, back end kicks out, they go around, caution flag comes out, the race gets potentially turned upside down. But right now, just looking at things, Andrew Himmelman has lapped all but the top 9. Nathan Maher, the last truck on the lead lap. If the caution flag was to wave right now, Garrett Gleason would be the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award winner. Big shout out to all of our series sponsors this season, folks. We have had quite a few of them. Of course, Stay Tuned Sports and them, of course, sponsoring tonight's race as well. Big shout out to them. Buttkicker, sponsoring the Buttkicker Challenge. We saw multiple winners of the Buttkicker Challenge this year. Not all too many, Drew. In fact, I think fewer winners of the Buttkicker Challenge than I expected. I know, we didn't have a whole lot of drivers go for the Buttkicker Challenge. It was great in theory, but just not a lot of drivers went for it. Craig's Setup Shop sponsoring the Pole Award. Great setups, folks. If you want some great quality iRacing setups to throw into your trucks or cars or whatever, from road courses to ovals, Craig's Setup Shop is the place to go. craigsetupshop.co.uk. BetAngles. If you bet on sports, BetAngles is the place to go to check on all of the betting angles, if you will, to figure out who to bet on tonight, tomorrow, and forevermore. Make sure to check them out at betangles.com. MaxGrafix.co, of course, a painter of iRacing trucks, cars, and the like. Make sure you check them out. WhoNeeds.com. We don't have enough time to write the extra M, so that's why it's MaxGrafix.co. Brookstone Animal Hospital, BrookstoneVet.com. If you're in the greater Atlanta, Georgia area, make sure you check them out. Taz Racing Customs for sponsoring the Taz Racing Customs Biggest Mover Race of the Race Awards all season long. Facebook.com/Taz Racing Customs. Of course, sim shots on the hood of the number 8 machine of Andrew Himmelman here tonight. And Beer Street Journal, who will be sponsoring the Beer Street Journal Grand National Series next season here in the National Sim Racing Association. On Thursday nights, we'll be bringing that to you right here on 3 Wide TV. Should be a lot of fun. So, big shout out to them. Of course, Beer Street Journal on the number 39 machine of Stan Hausman here tonight, as well as he works his way around the lap truck of Garrett Gleason. We also saw 971 of Nathan Maher. Looks like he is in danger of going a lap down here, Drew, but we're down just 9 laps to go. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I mean, time flies by when you're having fun, and I certainly have been watching this race here tonight. One thing we did see, Peter, on lap 1, what we didn't see that I kind of went back and tried to figure out is the 17 lost second position here on lap 125, 126. He about dumped the thing through 3 and 4, got dead sideways, lost about 3-4 seconds to Drew Himmelman, allowed the number 1 to get by. And that 17, just a massive moment there. I believe it's right before this, Peter, that we're seeing here. He was still on the tailgate of that number 8, or within sight of that number 8 machine. I might be mistaken. I think it's 125. I might be misremembering. It might be the lap before, a couple laps before. But that 17 just had an absolute massive moment, and quite frankly, did a really good job of saving it. Yeah, this is actually this is the front stretch after the moment that he had behind Drew Himmelman, Pete. And yeah, you'll see here just a few seconds, folks, that this is what we've been talking about how loose these trucks get over this long green run. Here he is through 3 and 4. Here we go. Huge dead sideways. Look at the lock that he had put in there, Peter. And then this cost him so much momentum down the front stretch, and he's still like getting those tires are hot, and he's still trying to save that thing as the one then flies on by. And now Peter, the 17, reestablished second, but 5.5 seconds behind our race leader.
Yeah, definitely in need of a caution flag at this point, Drew. Needing one of those Beer Street Journal last calls for sure if they want to have any shot at getting to victory lane here tonight, as it is a pretty big gap now, like you said, to Andrew Himmelman. We'll see if we can bring up that gap as well, kind of at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen between Andrew Himmelman and Stan Hausman. So you can see Hausman now about a half of a lap behind Andrew Himmelman. It would take something wild and wacky for Andrew Himmelman to lose the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series title here at this current junction of the race. But going back to Andrew Himmelman, Drew, he's been just lights out over the last 5 to 10 races, really. I mean, you know, last week, runner-up at Nashville Super Speedway. Milwaukee got the win. Kansas got the win. Finished 11th at Daytona. Week before that, Charlotte got the win. So if he wins here tonight, that would be 4 wins in the final 6 races. I mean, that is hitting your stride at the point it matters the most. And this time by, he'll just be 3 laps away from the series title and tonight's race win.
Gosh darn it. Peter, you stole my stat. I was going to bring that up. I was looking through it. I'm like, man, it feels like that 8 has been on a roll. And I looked back, and I'm like, well, this would be 4 out of 6. That'd be a great stat to bring up. But no, absolutely. He has turned it on when it mattered. You know, really starting in Darlington is where I think of the 8 really kind of finding his groove. Right, he had Darlington, then Motegi didn't win, then Charlotte won. It's been almost every other week until the playoffs started, and then you know, I mean, worst race was at Daytona, but yeah, that 8 has really just figured it out towards the end of the season. Now 6.5 seconds. The number 8, a 31.687 lap that last time by. Second place, Tristan Maher, 32.24. That is an absolutely massive gap between those two. That's 0.6 of a second, a lap between Mr. Himmelman and the second place driver.
Here we go, on board with Andrew Himmelman. White flag is waving for the number 8 machine. 1.5 miles left for him to be crowned the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series champion. He is right behind Tristan Maher and, excuse me, not Tristan Maher, the Nathan Maher. My goodness, getting drivers mixed up here late in the series. I'm tired. It's late. The season is coming to a close. Coming out of turn number 4, it will be Andrew Himmelman coming to the line. Stay Tuned Sports Truck Series champion in the Simshot Chevrolet.
Yeah, what a performance by Andrew Himmelman. Just, I mean, not dominating, but as close to you can come as dominating. You know, certainly towards the end of the race, firmly established himself as the guy. 4 out of 6 races, you mentioned it, Peter. 5 out of the last 8. An absolutely incredible close to the season by Andrew Himmelman, and just tops it off with a race win at Las Vegas to claim the NSRA Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series title.
You see, he gets a couple of congratulatory bumps from some of the drivers out there. Jason Gracias going to his back bumper, giving him a nudge, saying, congratulations there, buddy. You're a champion now, too. And I think we're going to see one heck of a burnout from the driver of the number 8 machine. I don't think that Chevrolet engine's going to have anything left in it after this one, as he lights up the rear tires for the fans here on the front stretch here, Drew, showing us exactly how to do a burnout for all the fans watching on 3Y TV.
Yeah, I expect to see a sim shot of this burnout plastered all over both social media, the Discord, all over the place for Drew Himmelman. Some Jeff Gordon vibes, by the way, from this scheme, right? Almost kind of a combination of his flame scheme, I can't remember what is it, the firestorm quote unquote scheme that Gordon ran with DuPont / Exalta, whatever that entity became. later on. So a great looking truck, as there goes the engine in that number 8. It has done exploded, as JT Poole lets him know what he thinks. A great season for this number 26 as well. A ton of drivers going out and congratulating that number 8 and celebrating the conclusion of a fantastic season as well. But I think none more so than that number 8, as there's a little race contact between the 49 and the 14 on the front stretch.
Yeah, they're, I don't know, at the end of some seasons, Drew, in the short track world across the United States, the very last thing you have of the season is a demo derby. I don't know if that's what some of these drivers had in mind here tonight. Not exactly sure. But let's see if we can bring up some of your top finishers here tonight. Let's see if we can start with tonight's third place finisher, driver of the number 1 machine, Jason Gracias. And Drew, see if I can get him up here into the 3-wide TV booth. And Drew, why don't you take it away with Jason Gracias?
Jason Gracias, Drew Eisman up here in the 3-wide TV booth. You got a copy.
Hello, Drew.
Well, Jason, a strong showing tonight, especially towards like the early, middle, rest of the race. Where do you think you just kind of fell a little short to the pace of that number 8 machine?
Honestly, I think I was just too nice to a lot of these chase guys. Start the race off, Matt Cherry wrecked right in front of me. They gave me a heart attack. And then going into 1 on a somewhat of a long run, I don't know what happened with Chris. I don't know if the 4 got loose and came down into him. I think I barely tapped Chris, gave me 1 second of damage. And then on the next run, Andrew got loose in front of me. Had to check up again. So I think if I just ran my race like I wanted to and just stayed up front and I could manage the pace, I would have been better. That 1 second of damage, I thought I'd be okay. I don't know if it gave me a little bit of engine damage, but it just seemed like I could never suck up on the straightaway. Maybe that's a package of dirty air. I'm not entirely sure. I don't really race these trucks too often. But I think it's long run. The setup wasn't something I personally would run. I just think that no matter what I did, I just burn off the right rear a little too much. At the end, I finally figured out which lane to run, but at that point, it was just too late. And Andrew just drove a hell of a race. He did a hell of a job all season, honestly, with putting the time and effort between practice, running fixed setups to actually learn how these cars drive. So Andrew deserves a championship. Very, very strong running. Maybe we'll see him in the Coke Series in the next few years.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly has improved as the season has gone on. And we saw you perform really well during a large portion of the season, unfortunately, just missing a few races. Are there any kind of feelings of what could have been if you were able to make that minimum requirement, or are you just kind of happy, where you finished, being competitive, happy for Mr. Himmelman? Just kind of what are your thoughts as the season wraps up?
Honestly, I think at my Daytona interview, I said I'm not here to run for the championship. It's just life gets in the way as you get older, get married, friends have kids, that becomes a priority. So I just came out. I just want to be competitive, go for podiums, go for wins. And I think I did a good job. I think over half my starts ended up with the top 5, 3 wins and 10 starts. So I really can't complain. I'm just happy that I'm a part of this great league, and I'm super happy for Andrew. I remember racing him last season in TNR, and where he's come a long way. So this is very well deserved by Andrew, by all means.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the end of this season. Well, the next one's not too far away. I mean, I don't know a ton about what lies next season, but do you have any expectations, goals, or what have you for the next season of the NSRA Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series?
I don't know. We'll see. If I return, I don't know where the cap stands, if that's a rule or not, but if I'm back next season, I'm hoping to do the same thing, run part-time, and the races I choose to run, just be competitive and, put this number 1 MaxGrafix / Slim Shot / Discount Tire car up front, get TV time, put it in victory lane.
Well, absolutely. Before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout-out to?
Yeah, thanks to Stay Tuned Sports Podcast for coming on board this season. He's done a lot for us as a league and the community. Very active, giving out prize money, talking to us on his podcast, make sure you go check out his podcast. Buttkicker for coming on board and doing the Buttkicker challenge. Craig Setup Shops, for coming on board and sponsoring this league too. Then because of Craig's Setup Shop, I met Matt Busa, who also builds our TWRP TNR. So that was a pretty cool experience. And if it wasn't for Chris and his admin team for putting that deal together, I don't think that would ever have happened. Through ITV, Drew, you and Peter do a great job with these broadcasts, and all the fans in the chat. Every week, it's fun after the race is over to interact, to just go and read, to see what everyone's saying. So it's all in all, good league, very fun. Can't wait to start this Super Speedway series on Wednesdays and this Grand Nationalist series on Thursdays. So, and maybe I'll be back in the fall for the trucks again. So super pumped, super happy. TNR had a good showing. Mason Dixon Racing had a good showing. So all in all, great season.
Well, absolutely. Thank you for the kind words. Thank you for talking with us. You were certainly a guy that we had to watch out for on any given Friday night. And congratulations on the great season. Once again, thanks for talking with us, and we hope to see you running next year.
Hey, guys. Thanks for the kind words, everyone. Thanks for your support, and maybe I'll see you next year.
All right. Thank you.
All right, well, that's going to do it with tonight's third place finisher, Jason Gracias. Let's see if we can dial up tonight's runner-up, driver of the number 17 machine, Tristan Maher. Peter Short, 3Y TV booth. You got a copy?
I do, Peter. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. That number 17 looked very, very quick out there. You had the lead for a good portion of the race here tonight. Coming up just a little bit short. We saw that long slide that you had with about 15 laps to go. What was it here tonight? I know it looked like maybe you had a little bit of damage on that number 17 truck. Do you think that might have been affecting your pace there at the end? Jason thought that he might have raced Andrew Himmelman maybe a little bit too easy. What's your perspective here tonight?
So in the beginning of the race, I was kind of talking to Jason. Jason's my teammate. I was kind of talking to Jason, and I was telling him I don't really want to race Andrew super hard. Just because what he's got on the line and stuff like that, but at the same time I want to win this race. But yeah, I kind of ended up just racing Andrew as hard as he raced me. I didn't by any means just let him by or let him pass me. He was definitely faster than me in the long run, better at saving tires. I got that damage from JT Poole on the front stretch. Most guys go on the apron, and he didn't go on the apron that lap. And I came down on him. We almost wrecked. That was almost a big one, but ended up saving it. I don't know if that was affecting the truck's handling towards the end when the tires got warm. Maybe. I was super, super loose at the end of the race. As you can see, you guys caught my spin. Well, almost spin. Yeah. I don't know what I could have done different. Maybe back up the corners, save the right rear a little bit more. That's the biggest thing around this track, at least with this setup. Didn't have to worry about your right front. You only had to worry about your right rear.
Well, definitely, it seemed like the setup did have some raciness to it, which made for some interesting moments here tonight. But, looking back over your season, it's been a very topsy-turvy season, but you've shown some pace over the past couple of weeks here. Back-to-back podiums to end out the season. Do you think that gives you momentum heading towards the next one?
Yeah, maybe. Gonna miss the guys that aren't gonna be here next season. But yeah, I'll be here next season, I think. Hopefully, the reason why it's been topsy-turvy is, just getting in accidents, basically luck. But if I find an enemy to get a good run in, then I normally have decent pace.
Has definitely been the case over the past couple of weeks. 3 top 5s on the season for you, Tristan. Hopefully, you can find some more of those top 5s next season. Maybe we'll see you in the hunt for the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series title. But hey, before we let you go, any shout-outs you'd like to give out?
Yeah, you guys, 3Y TV, Stay Tuned Sports, all my teammates, Jason, Garrett, Doze, all those guys, Vinny Valvano. Those guys are the reasons why I come here. NSRA, it's a fantastic league. Yeah, I think that's it.
All right. Well, Tristan, congratulations on your runner-up finish here tonight, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you again soon here on 3 Wide TV. Best of luck.
Thank you, Peter.
All right, that's going to do it for our second place finisher here tonight, but now we're going to jump it over to the second place in points finisher. That's right, the number 39 machine of Stan Hausman, and I believe that Drew Eisman has caught up with Stan.
Well, Stan Hausman, Drew Eisman up here in the 3 Wide TV booth. You got a copy.
Yeah, I hear you guys. How you doing tonight?
Well, we're doing great. Certainly a crazy, crazy race. Second in points, finished sixth. What are your thoughts about tonight?
I was happy the way it went. Early on we had some speed and was able to kind of miss some of the wrecks that were around me. And just down right before that last green flag pit stop, JT and Mitchell got raced really hard and we lost the draft. And I kind of did it in right there. But, and I'm not mad at them at all. I've raced with them for a couple seasons, and they got to race hard for their positions too, and I was right there with them for it. So, if you would have told me at Talladega when I won you were going to finish second in the points, I wouldn't have believed you. I wouldn't have put my own money on it. But here we are, and that's all it needs, I guess.
Yeah, and you talked about finishing second and not really expecting that. I think that a lot of, I know certainly myself and a lot of other people, just coming into tonight, wouldn't have expected you to be able to be as competitive as you were. Did you have any expectations as to what tonight you would be able to do, what your goals were? Did you have any of that stuff?
Well, a little bit. I'm kind of lucky. Las Vegas is one of my favorite tracks. I seem to always do good here. I think in the previous season I qualified second here. Obviously, it's on a different setup, but I knew I could get up there and make some noise. But I was joking around with the guys before the race. I was like, so if I'm just gonna hang around back here, and if y'all get taken out, I'll be in good shape. And lo and behold, I didn't think that was actually going to happen, and it did. But I the way things kind of worked out, at the beginning of the run when everything was lined up and everyone was drafting, I kind of saved tires, and as the run came to or started to wear on, I'd be able to push it harder, because there was one point I think I was down to 11th and I had worked my way all the way back up to 6th before a caution. So I was like, okay, I can do this. I can get up there. Just don't burn them up right away. And that was just kind of my strategy all night. Just kind of save the tires and after 20 or so laps, make it interesting on the long run.
Yeah, and I don't know if you're aware, Stan, but the 8 almost lost it coming about 2-3 laps before the stage break. So we thought the entire championship had turned over at that point.
Oh, I saw that and I checked up. I saw him sideways and I noticed there was a couple cars below me and I had no one right behind me. I was like, all right, you guys go. If that piles up, I want no one piling into me and anything else. But Andrew saved it. I figured he probably would. I actually was more worried about people kind of checking up and something had happened behind them. But yeah, I did catch a glimpse of that and checked up really hard.
Well, I mean, second in points is I think one position shy of the ultimate goal for this season. But next season, I think a lot of unknowns, right? Not a lot of information out there. But do you have any expectations or goals going into next season?
Always improve. I started the season and it was make sure you're in the top half of the field. Then it was, okay, let's start getting some top 15s and, started to work in some top 10s, started to run around, just improve. And as the season ran on, we were able to get to places where tires were an issue. And I like longer run races. I really do. I just wish I didn't burn up my tires tonight on the last run, but so I just want to improve. Andrew was the class of the field this year. I mean, how many wins did he have? 7, 8, 9, something like that. So he definitely deserved it. I just wanted to be consistent and and just kind of run a good year. And it just seemed like every time we got to when it was time to move on and people to get eliminated, something would always happen, and I was just above the cut line. So not going to give it away to anyone else. Definitely deserved, I think, to be there because I put in the work. But I'm pretty happy with being just in the top 4 alone, let alone second.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly was fun to watch. Congratulations once again on your solid finish, but more importantly, that second place in the championship. But before we let you go, is there anybody that'd like to give a shout out to?
Oh yeah, I mean, the guys over at Stay Tuned Sports for coming on board and sponsoring the league. I feel bad because when my only race win, I forgot to thank them. So awesome that they came on board. So really happy that they're there. BeerStreetJournal.com. Make sure you guys check out my buddy Reed Ramsey's site. He's fantastic in beer reviews. You'd be surprised the stuff that he finds. Simbox, MaxGrafix, Taz Racing Customs. The whole list of sponsors that help make this happen, and appreciate them making this league what it is, because I really like running in the NSRA. I really do.
All right, Stan. Well, thanks for talking with us, and we look forward to seeing you next season.
Thanks. You guys have a great night.
You as well.
All right. Well, from the second place in points to the series champion, Andrew Himmelman. Andrew, you got a copy?
Yep.
Well, I'll tell you what there, bud. Taking home the championship in style with the win here tonight at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It's been a stellar season for you, that is for sure. Picking up the win multiple times this season. Make that 6 with your win here tonight, and 10 top 5 finishes. I mean, what a great way to round out your season with yet another win here at Las Vegas. First off, tell us about your night, and we'll move on to the championship questions after that.
Yeah, we actually figured out how to race the thing long run, like middle race. So the setup was good. I mean, it was practically Dega for 20 laps there early on. You just sat there. You couldn't really make a pass 20 laps in. But then once the tire wear started to hit, you would see guys turning loose, and then that's where I actually felt like we were good. Because I had found the line that you really wouldn't turn loose as much as other guys, and I just stuck with it and went on. The more the race went on, the better we got, I felt. Early we just played some patience. It sucks. A lot of chase guys got caught up in a mess. I feel bad for Chris. I kind of got caught up in something that you can't help. So it sucks for that. But I know Stan, he gave me a good run for my money there. I feel like if we had a caution, he was just gonna be right up there with me. And I mean, I was very close to speeding, so he was very close to winning that thing. But overall, fun race. Great season, and happy to be back in victory lane again.
Yeah, and of course, with the new iRating limit, you will not be back next season fighting to defend your crown. How cool is it to kind of do a little bit of a walk-off here as the series champion?
Yeah, it's great. I know they don't have mean intentions or anything with kicking us out. I get it. You want to keep it kind of lower our rating. So it opens up our Fridays again. I feel like I was kind of on the edge about coming back next season anyway. If high school with football coming back, and I want to go watch some games and stuff. So I wish nothing but the best to them. Great people in there. And that's their decision. I hope it goes well for them. We'll just see how it plays out for them.
Yeah, hopefully while you're at those football games, you can tune into 3 Wide TV, and you can be watching there from the stands. And definitely we wish you the absolute best of luck. Looking back over the season, is there any particular race? I know Drew Eisenman mentioned Darlington as kind of your coming of age, if you will. All of a sudden it seemed like you were knocking out wins left and right after Darlington. But any key race stick out to you this season looking back?
Yeah, I think Bristol Dirt and Darlington's where it started. I finally got a win under my belt, and then I had Darlington, a real asphalt track, win under my belt, and it just kind of went off from there. You get on fire, and maybe it wasn't just fire, and maybe we just finally were able to get that win under our belt and get comfortable and get going. I feel like we got going at the best time of the year, in the back half of the season, where it really matters. Those first few races, so what? You get your win, you're locked in, and then the back half is what really matters. And then we kind of showed that, and I don't know, I didn't really feel great about tonight. Coming in, I feel like we get outraced to 3 guys, but I mean, you never know what's going to happen at Vegas and championship night. So I would definitely say Bristol Dirt and Darlington, where it all started. Kansas was another one, a good dominating race in the playoffs, and that I feel like it kind of set the tone for us in the playoffs. And yeah, and just, I mean, tons of fun this season. I can't say I didn't have fun. I wish nothing but the best of these guys.
Absolutely. It was a great season for you, Andrew, and a way to walk out of the championship with a win, of course, here in the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. I know we got a lot of people in the chat giving you congratulations. Connie Adams in the chat saying woohoo. Tana saying congratulations. Adams Racing saying definitely deserved that one. Stay Tuned Sports with the congratulations. Of course, Ben Adams with the congratulations. Garrett Gleason with the congratulations. I know John Canizaro jumping in there as well. A bunch of different people in the chat congratulating you, and I'm sure you'll continue to hear those congratulations in the Discord here. But what a great way to end the championship, and we'll definitely give you the opportunity to give the championship shout-outs here, and then we'll see if Drew Eisman has a question for you too.
Yeah, I guess, Mr. Himmelman, you certainly had run well in past seasons, and you'd competed for wins and run well. But at what point in this season did you think I can win this championship?
I think the Kansas race. I think that really hit. I think I kind of saw where we were at with with other people, and the long run speed we had at Kansas was unmatched in my opinion. So I think then it was, my eyes were set on the championship, and I feel like it was go time. You had some other races again, like Darlington. I got some more confidence in myself at Darlington, and that I feel like at those points I feel like I had a good shot at the championship. But I had to take it race by race. You had Daytona to start the chase off, so you never really. I don't know how to describe that one. You just had to go race by race at that point. And I think coming into the season we felt pretty confident, and in the summer we had a bunch of time to practice and race, and I think I dedicate to a lot of it James. I know he's not in the league anymore, and Mitchell. I sat back a whole season and just watched them all season, and I really learned off them a lot. And so I think it really came to us in about Darlington, Kansas. Those really, we were confident in the championship at that point.
Yeah, and you mentioned that Fridays don't seem likely to be included in your future plans, but do you have concrete future plans? Where could we go to watch and to root for you? If we're a fan and want to see you do great things out there.
I don't know. I think Fridays are definitely out. We're not allowed to race, so but I think if all goes to plan and the iRating gets up a little bit more, we're going to try and attempt at Road to Pro. May not go well. Just a good trial round next season. But we just got to see how things play out. And maybe we get to, maybe we don't. But again, for Fridays, I hope these guys have a great time. I'm sure I'll tune in a couple of times here and there.
All right. Well, all the best. And once again, congratulations on your championship. It was a blast to watch.
Yeah, thanks, man.
All right, Andrew, now we'll give you that opportunity to give us those final shout-outs here this season.
Yep. The whole SimShots Racing team, another championship taken home, just sweeping all the championships. So it's a great thing to see. And then all my family for watching, granddad, mom, all them, GTR, Buttkicker, SimShots, and Kristen for putting this on for the whole season. I can't say enough. It's a great season, a bunch of great racers. I've made a bunch of good friends, JT, Mitchell, all of them, out of this whole thing. So, you can't say you shouldn't have fun this season. NSRA's provided a bunch of fun, and I hope they have another great season next year.
All right. Well, Andrew, congratulations once again on your Stay Tuned Sports Truck Series title. And hopefully we'll get to see you some more here on 3 Wide TV in the future. Enjoy it.
Yeah, thanks, man.
All right, well, that's going to do it for our championship interviews. Let's see if we can bring up tonight's final race results for all of you folks back at home. Taking home the win and the championship here tonight is Andrew Himmelman, with Tristan Maher coming home second. Jason Gracias finishing in third. JT Poole in fourth. Mitchell Adams, Stan Hausman, 5th and 6th. Vincent Valvano, Jeff Price, 7th and 8th. Nathan Maurer and Garrett Gleason rounding out your top 10. Vincent Valvano finishing 7th was your Taz Racing Customs biggest mover of the race here tonight. Drew.
Doug Neal in 11th. Adam Dama, a solid run in 12th position, though he did not finish the race. And yeah, like, folks, now we're getting into the guys who had misfortune at some point. And there is Jason Shue in 13th position. Matt Cherry, a championship contender, had his night go wrong, finishing in 14th position. Doug Milner in 15th. Nick Kessler in 16th, who battled for the lead early on. Chris Darling, another championship contender, got caught up in Nick Kessler's mistake in turns 3 and 4 and did not finish the race, but did finish in 17th position. Then Kyle Lewis in 18th position. Ben Adams in that number 5 machine in 19th position. Then Ben Mashburn in that 24. Travis White in the 23. Justin White in that number 2 machine. And then rounding out our field, who did not take the green flag, is Steven Doziak Jr. in that number 55.
So, folks, that's going to do it for us here tonight on 3Y TV. Make sure you're with us in about 3-ish weeks' time for 2021 B season here in the National Sim Racing Association Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series. It's going to be a whole new season, new faces, a whole bunch of new things. Should be a lot of fun. We're going to have a new graphics package, so hopefully this one that we're having now, with all of the troubles that we've had with it, hopefully those troubles go away. We'll have some fancy new looks. Should be a lot of fun. But, Drew, been an interesting season. A very, very deserving champion in Andrew Himmelman. It's going to be a lot of fun to see what new faces we have next season.
Yeah, certainly sounds like there's going to be quite a bit of turnover and opportunities for new guys to come in, opportunities for existing drivers to try to figure out what they need to do. It can be for championships, and I'm really excited to see what next season brings.
Absolutely. Well, folks, want to give another big shout out to the series sponsors here in the National Sim Racing Association here at the end of the season. Of course, Stay Tuned Sports, stsports.podbean.com, the Buttkicker, thebuttkicker.com. If you want to add to your sim racing rig with something that is extremely cool and get some of those vibrations in your racing seat, the Buttkicker is the place to go. And check out thebuttkicker.com. Craig Setup Shop for all of your iRacing setup needs. CraigSetupShop.co.uk. BetAngles Betting. If you are a bettor yourself, make sure you check out BetAngles for the best odds and the best chances of winning in the betting game. MaxGrafix.co. If you want an iRacing paint scheme, they're the place to go. Brookstone Animal Hospital in the greater Atlanta, Georgia area will take care of all of your pets, so make sure you check them out. Taz Racing Customs, Facebook.com/Taz Racing Customs. Of course, big shout out here tonight to tonight's Taz Racing Customs Biggest Mover of the Race Award. Of course, that did go to Vincent Valvano here tonight. So congratulations there, Vincent Valvano. You can check them out at Taz Racing Customs at Facebook, facebook.com/Taz Racing Customs. You need a custom diecast, they're the place to go. Can put your iRacing truck or car onto a diecast, can put a real-life car that maybe one of the diecast manufacturers doesn't provide. Well, they're the place to go. SimShots, there's a link to their Facebook page in the link. If you run an iRacing league, SimShots is the place to go to get the best quality sim pictures that you can possibly get. And, of course, Beer Street Journal, who will be sponsoring the BeerStreetJournal.com Grand National Series in the National Sim Racing Association on Thursday nights here on 3YTV here in a couple of weeks. But, Drew, I think that's going to do it for us here tonight. Should be a lot of fun next season. And for everyone here watching, folks, stay safe, and we shall see ya.